This meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. This meeting will be recorded by the local scene. Members of the public who wish to watch the meetings may do so by viewing the Duxbury Government Access channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9. Viewers can also visit the localscene.media/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. With that, I call the meeting to order and ask that you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have open forum. If any members of the community have any ideas for future agenda items, you can raise them tonight. But I will start with the select board, and I'll go left to right. Do you have anything?
That means me first.
Yes.
I have a couple of things. I had mentioned several weeks ago that I had received at least 2 anonymous letters. And I wanted to share the letters with the board, and the only way that I can do that is by putting them on the record and giving them to Nancy, and then they can be distributed to the board, but it also makes them open to the public. So I did not want to do that without asking the author of the letter. You know, I don't want to jam anybody up or do something that they didn't want me to do. The letter does not ask me not to share it, but they did send it anonymously. So I would like it just in the record that if the authors of those letters wish for me to keep them private, then if they could please reach out in some way, again, by another letter, by mail, email. There's an anonymous way to send an email to the town, and let me know that they would not like me to, that they would like me not to share those letters, and I will not do so. If I do not hear anything by the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, I would like to share those letters with the board.
Okay. Is one of those the one that went to me as well?
I think so. I don't know.
It
I
says
haven't.
chair and vice chair.
Yeah, that was one, and
Okay.
then there was one other.
Okay.
And then I have, I'm sorry, I have two other items. I was hoping that, I know that there's been some presentations to the public regarding the potential override and the information. I think, Fernando, you have created some slides or some information that's on the website, which I think is very helpful to people. I would like to ask if you could make a separate slide or page for that to try just to identify for the residents some of the upcoming issues, costs that we know are coming down the road. I know that, you know, we're not quite sure whether the PFAS mitigation is going to be before this town meeting or a following town meeting, but we know that there's going to be some significant costs and impacts to the residents. So I think if we could, you know, I've been trying to, at every opportunity, disclose as much to the residents as we know. And there's always going to be things coming down the road that we don't know about, but there are some, you know, pretty hefty price tags that we know about coming soon, whether it's at this town meeting or in the next year or two. So we know, for instance, if we could list that we're hiking the water bills. We have to do that. It's long overdue. The extent of that, we don't know yet, but there's going to be a significant rate increase in water. We know about the PFAS mitigation. I've already mentioned that. Also, as part of the water discussion, is infrastructure that is long overdue. That again we need to we need to make the residents aware that that is something that they're going to be asked to pay for. Bridge repairs or replacement, we don't know, we know that that's coming. We don't know whether that's coming tomorrow or next week, next year, but it's coming, and that's a big conversation. There's conversation of a new school or a renovation. Again, let's disclose what we know to the voters, and also let's remind everybody at every opportunity that the cost of the DPW, which is significant, which the town has approved, is not yet reflected on your tax bill. So we're not seeing that yet, and we're not seeing the costs of the seawall. So it's my intention to try to not look at just the override. We have to look at the override with all of the other things that we know are going to be coming down the road, as well as, keeping in mind that there are always going to be things that we don't know about, but we can't, we can't guess at that. So,
just for clarification, Amy, on that slide pack, there is one slide which specifically addresses the debt, and includes the seawall, and includes the DPW building. So people will definitely see that, and there's a sum which goes override plus debt. All right, so those two are already in that slide, and everybody can see that. The water, we're still working on the water and the scope of that. And then the Powder Point bridges, right now is DOT's funding that. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on what exactly we've got coming up and where is the information to be found. So just to be clear, DPW and the seawall is on that slide pack, and it's actually clearly outlined the override impact and the impact in your tax bill.
yeah, understood.
It isn't on the agenda tonight. I didn't expect a counter back and forth here. This is open session. I think Amy's points are well asked here. Maybe, we're all invited to these meetings as well. Maybe there's a way we can talk about it, or you can make the...
Go to the
Well,
meetings.
I'll keep, again,
meetings.
I'm just trying, I only do this, the only job up here is working for the residents. And all I
think
want
we
to
all
do
do
is...
the same, Amy.
I know, so let's try to give them all the information that they need. I think it would be so hard and really tragic to be talking about this override, but then, very shortly down the road, whether it's at a special town meeting or at next town meeting, have one of these big projects in front of the town that we really need to have to do, and not have had, given the notice that I think is so important. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I hear that. We
Yep.
just need to make sure we provide correct information.
Right,
And
and
that's the
again, I don't
difficulty
have
with
all
with all
the...
this
Hey.
information is
Guys,
that.
Okay.
I'm just I appreciate it. Well taken. It's open forum, folks.
Yeah.
And if we need to put this on an agenda item...
Let's put it on the agenda, because I want to get the facts out
All
and
right,
make sure
well,
that
and
people
we
fully
also,
understand.
we are going to be discussing these articles on another date too, so
Yeah.
very soon.
Yep.
Go right ahead, Brian.
Okay, well,
Or
I have
actually, I
one more
apologize.
thing, I'm
Okay.
sorry, one last thing, is just on that same note, I've been asking to have Capital come in and give us a presentation as to what the capital is for this year, what are they looking at for capital projects for this year, and again, most importantly, what they know, what they see on their horizon for the future, again, for the same reasons that I just noted.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may have noticed it snowed over the weekend.
Yes, it did.
And I wanted to extend my
Brian.
appreciation to the Department of Public Works. They were up and down the streets in the wee hours of the morning with the sanding and salting. I think they did a great job keeping the streets passable through, I think, what's our first storm of the season, so thank you for that. I want to congratulate and welcome 3 new police officers who were sworn in at 5 o'clock this afternoon. They are Officers Doherty, Hackett, and Sheehan, new to the force, and there was a promotion of now Sergeant Flynn. I want to congratulate them. All of those were done this afternoon.
Massachusetts 250, I had told this board that I would follow up. It was something that I had heard about at the Mass Municipal Association meeting. The country is celebrating its semi-quincentennial in 2026, and Massachusetts is taking part through Massachusetts 250 to showcase towns and businesses that have some historical significance or have significance to Massachusetts history. So I reached out to Mass 250, had a good conversation with a representative there. I spoke today with our town historian, Tony Kelso, to get some ideas as to who we might want to include and reach out to and notify to see if there's interest on behalf of different boards and committees and businesses in town to see if we'd like to participate in some way in this statewide celebration going on the next year to year and a half. So more to follow on that. And then finally, Amy, I also received an anonymous letter asking, in my case, important questions about the town's HR department. I note that the letter was postmarked on the 5th. On the 6th, we had a joint meeting with the Finance Committee that I think answers all, or at least most, of the questions that the letter writer raised. And assuming that person is watching tonight, I'd like to point out on the video from the 6th, at timestamp 1:57 and 38 seconds is when Jeannie started her presentation. And it was a very detailed presentation with a lot of information. I know it went quickly, but I think that answers the questions that the writer asked of us. And I'm sorry the person felt they needed to reach out anonymously. I think we are approachable here. It's our job to provide information, Amy, as you were saying earlier, and Fernando, to your point, that everything is accurate. And I'd invite folks who want to reach out to us on various issues. You're certainly welcome to send letters to us anonymously, but I think it's more helpful if you can at least provide us with some contact information so we can get back to you with specific information. And I'll leave it there. So thank you.
Anything?
Yeah, I'd like, can we put the water rate study and the fees on the agenda before our annual town meeting so we can answer that question? Sure. And show
I have
the
it on a long
profile?
range, I just can't remember the date.
We need to have it before,
You know, March 17th.
That's after the town meeting.
Right.
And people, I mean, it's out there, everybody's concerned about it, the override water rates. We just need to get the data out in front of our,
I don't know that it'll be ready by then.
It's because it's going to also have to be an advertised fee hearing.
Yeah. So there's a hearing factor in there too.
well, can we?
We can't talk about this, but I totally agree.
It has, okay. Can we just get, we don't have to have the fee hearing, but we can certainly get an idea of what the outcome's going to be and what the potential numbers are for the residents before the March annual town meeting. It's really important what Amy's saying. What I don't want is people standing up there and saying, hey, you're throwing everything at us and these fees, and we talk about numbers that are not real, right? They're still ongoing right now. What exactly is in the water quality, in the master plan, what exactly is required for PFAS or not, as the case may be. And so there's big numbers going around there, and we need to have it before the annual town meeting.
Yeah. And to that end, Rainey, there was the first option A for the water rates. That was really what Mark was asking for. It was like a 1 point, I don't know what it was based on, some kind of run rate. And I heard a glimpse of it during the capital discussion to the Finance Committee, but I would like our board to hear that too, why he wants to increase it for just the infrastructure and for his annual expense, what he anticipates for annual expenses going forward.
Okay. I'll see if I can advance the date.
I understood that that's where it came from. I just want to hear, put some meat on it, just understand where that number is coming from. As water and sewer commissioners.
Yes.
All right.
See what I can do.
All right. We have a lot on the agenda.
Does anybody in the public have a?
Oh, is there anybody, thank you. Is there anybody in the public that has an open session item? Or go right up. You have to go to the podium, give us your name and street address, please. Yep. Take your time.
Good evening. Jim Sullivan, 13 Carriage Lane. I spoke the other night at the joint session of the Finance Committee and the Select Board, and I'd like to revisit that item again. Since then, I've had a number of residents asking me if the issue that was raised was going to be acted on by the Select Board. The issue, of course, was the attempt to give some tax relief as opposed to increase to town residents by taking action to lower the community preservation tax rate, the superimposed 3% on top of all of our taxes, overrides, and others to come. If some action is going to be taken by the Select Board to put an article in the town warrant that will effectively lower the CPA maximum rate at 3% down to 1%, the rate that it was for a number of years, and very effective. I was unable to answer the question as to whether that kind of tax relief, the only tax relief that's in the picture, and that can be acted on because it is time to do it, and it is warranted. I said there is a meeting tonight at which I understand the warrant is being reopened and an article could be inserted to raise it at town meeting so all residents can act on it if they so think it's the appropriate action. A reduction of that rate will not impair any critical town services. That money is used for discretionary projects, unlike what we're talking about here and so closely monitoring every dollar for critical town services. If you lower the CPA rate, you in no way impair town services. So again, the question is, will action be taken so that people can vote on an article to that effect?
So, sir, and I didn't say this up front, because this is an open session, open forum session, it's not on the agenda, we can't respond to you substantively about your comments. I do know that we will go through all the articles that are on the town warrant between now and town meeting. But we aren't going to respond to your comments, and the folks from CP, from the Community Preservation Committee, are not here tonight to defend their article as well that they've presented to town meeting. So what I can say is maybe we could reach out to you, or you could keep an eye on the agendas coming up, but we will properly notice to the public when those CPC articles will be voted on for recommendation by this board. Obviously, we're not town meeting, but we will make recommendation on those articles in coming weeks.
That actually could be tonight.
My point is not on those articles. They are what they are.
Yeah,
And will be
I know,
voted.
I understand what you're asking for.
Okay, all right. Just
I
wanna
do.
make certain.
I wrote it down and I understand it. And maybe when we get to that piece of the agenda, we can also, I understand we're going to be presented with that article.
My fear is that the clock will work against it tonight and say, we can't put any articles in after tonight. Okay, that's why I'm here.
Well, I will allow you to speak again later on if we bring up that article.
Well, I don't want to take up any more of the time.
No,
Okay,
you're
everyone
not.
has other issues.
This
Thank
is your
you.
meeting as well as ours.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. With that, I would like to, unless there are any more, we have new business, and DVR is graciously here 2 meetings in a row. We have a beach lease article discussion. Would you like to kick it off, Rainey?
Yep, thank you. So this is a continuation from your meeting last week on the 3rd.
Yep.
The board had voted 5-0 in favor of recommending the proposed article. As a result, you had asked to have a copy of the lease itself, which you do have.
Right.
So if you have any questions, Chris is here to answer them for you.
I guess my only question is there any substantive changes from last year other than the dates that the dollar amounts are due?
No, I believe it's just the dates, right, Chris? Yeah, she's nodding in agreement.
Nodding in agreement. So, that being said, we cannot vote to execute it before town meeting.
Right.
What I would like, I don't know what we can possibly do.
This was sort of a fulfillment of a request.
It was a request of mine. I wanted to make sure that there were no changes.
Yeah.
It's not executed, but I think, given this discussion, we don't need to put this online. We have the one from last year. If it's no different than the one last year, we can direct the public
Correct.
to last year's lease agreement if they have any questions about the terms of it. It's on the select board page of, on our website. But I will certainly open it up to questions from the board or the public if you have any questions or concerns about this lease.
Why wouldn't we post it on the website?
We haven't executed it.
I understand that, but it's a public record.
You can.
I don't think
We
there's
could.
any downside.
I don't have any-
Especially If anybody's interested in saying, well, I want to
Let's see what this
review
is.
it myself,
Yep.
the public is certainly more than welcome to go through it.
That's no problem.
It will be in the minutes of this meeting, right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
That's fine with me.
And the reason that we're having this discussion was because you felt it was important for town meeting to have the opportunity to see the lease before they voted on it at town meeting.
Yes.
Which does make sense, because there could be, someone might not know exactly what they're voting for at town meeting, and now if we make this public, now that this is public, they do, so it makes sense.
May I ask, maybe Chris or somebody from the reservation, is there a red line version that we could also post? I mean, it seems like there's only a few changes, rather than have somebody go through like a resident line by line on a PDF, that they could just check out the red lines? It'd save some time.
Crystal Tozzi, Duxbury Beach Reservation. Yes, certainly.
Great.
Thought I provided it, to be honest. So I might have gone too fast and just put 5s on them. But happy to
Okay.
do that.
All right,
Great,
so.
thank you.
Other than the dates, is there any change, or any other red lines to it?
No, there's a bunch of dates. So there's 4 payment dates. And then there's a change of our permit, and that we have to, we reissue our permit we submit amendments to the state. So that is a change of date. And there's one other about the termination in December. So there's six different dates that are changed. 4 payments, one is a permit, and the other is regarding a termination clause that's in there.
Okay. And so in that termination clause, it's nothing substantive, or is that a new clause?
No, it's just the dates changed.
Just the date?
Yep.
All right.
There's no amount change either, so.
Okay.
It's literally, the years have changed.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with Brian's idea. You're right, it's public record.
And if we could post the red lines with it,
That makes
so
sense.
save some folks some time.
So I'm sure that Rainey has that red line version.
Yeah, I'll double check. If not, I'll make sure you have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone from the public have any questions about the lease? All right. There being none, I think we're good. We don't need to take any votes tonight.
No.
All right. Thank you very much. I know this is 2 times you've had to come, so I appreciate it. Next, we are going to become water and sewer commissioners.
I move that the Select Board adjourn the meeting in order to meet as the Water and Sewer Commissioners with the intent of reconvening as a Select Board afterward.
All right.
Second,
And a roll call.
Thank you. Let's go left to right.
Amy, aye.
Michael, aye?
Brian, aye.
Fernando, aye.
All right, we have a discussion and vote pertaining to the approval of abatements. Mr. Peter Hassel, the Assistant Water and Superintendent.
Peter's here to walk you through.
Nice to meet you, sir. We haven't met.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining us tonight. You do have to go to the microphone. It's not for us, it's for people at home.
Certainly. Okay, the abatement request we have, first one is account number 837. The current bill is $3,068.50. The amount of the abatement is $2,890.86. It's for 1 Woodridge Road. We need an actual number off the meter, so the number was wrong on the meter to correct the bill. And the residence radio and number 3 Woodridge Road were both getting the same reading, so the reading was wrong. And When the readings were done in October, after the radio information was updated, the gun captured actual numbers and the office needed to readjust. You know, so we're just doing a readjustment, so it was a clerical error that, you know, we've subsequently rectified, but we need to go back and.
How did you reach the adjusted bill?
Let me go back in here. Yeah. I guess we went back to the number, we found the number on the old meter, and was able to adjust for that.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding this one. So it says residence radio. What?
Well, the meters have a radio on them, and it was
Okay.
basically picking up the reading, the gun we have was picking up the wrong resident, you know, and assigning it to this resident. So they were picking up the resident on 3 Woodridge Road instead of 1 Woodridge Road.
Okay.
Yeah, your water meter transmits a radio frequency, and they read it with a gun. They point the gun at it, and if it's got the wrong frequency, it could read the wrong house. They're not close enough.
Okay, I understand that. Now, it does seem, we hadn't really seen many of these before, you know, I think the last
Right.
6 months or so. So
It can happen. It's-
maybe a different type of radio, or is this a new way of reading the water
No,
meters?
they've been
We've
using
been
the,
changing out a lot of the
Yeah, they re-
meters are old, and we've been changing them out, trying to get everything current.
right, they change them out on a cyclical pattern. They don't do the whole town at once, they change them. And so some of the old meters get caught, and this was probably one of the old ones.
So there seems to be some glitches in this, in the way
Always,
that this happens. I'm sure it saves money in one respect, but then there are errors in others.
It's interesting because the current bill is just over $3,000, right?
Yeah.
And the amount to be abated was $2,800, so the actual bill was $177.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a,
Yeah,
that's,
it's a big surprise for somebody.
It's just,
well, we must have, but
Yeah.
what, so they picked up number 3 Woodridge Roads, their
Yeah.
bill was $3,000?
Apparently. I don't have any information on number 3, but.
Because somebody's using the water, so somebody's
Sprinklers.
paying the bill,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow,
okay,
okay.
It's a lot of
Very
money.
green lawn.
yes. The other one, 17 Sunflower Circle.
Yeah, the next one on 17 Sunflower Circle, the account has never been billed before, and when the account was set up, the router was never entered, you know. So these guys are new homeowners, and they didn't know. So the recommendation is only charge for tier 1, since no bill was sent by the water department for longer than normal billing period, you know, and they're first-time homeowners. So it takes it from the current bill at $2,432.55. To amount of the abatement would be $904.70. It was all tier 1, and that would give a bill of $1,527.85.
Is this for a year's usage of water? Is it full year, or is it for the half year?
I think it's half year.
Wow.
Well, it says that it was
It was never set up,
a
so it could have
longer
been.
than normal billing period. So what's a longer than normal billing period?
I'm not sure.
Well, 6 months is when we get billed
That would
twice
be
a year,
normal.
so
Yeah,
that
as
would
of
be normal.
12/3/24. So I think it's closer to a year.
Okay.
Right.
So the difference that you're abating is the difference in the tier.
Yes.
So they're still getting charged for the
Yes.
water, it's just at the lower rate for the people
Exactly.
who use less water. I
Yeah.
understand. Okay, that seems
So,
reasonable.
yeah, they didn't get a chance to change the water habits.
Well,
Sounds
now-
like getting the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah,
Okay. I think that's it, right?
just those 2.
All right. I'll take
yeah.
motions.
All right. I move that the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners approve the abatement, this is for 17 Sunflower Circle, the abatement totaling $904.70 for reading correction at 17 Sunflower Circle, Duxbury.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
This next one is for 1 Woodbridge Road. I move that the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners approve the abatement totaling $2,890.86 for reading correction at 1 Woodbridge Road, Duxbury.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And I believe we have, does this fall under water and sewer? Let me see.
No.
No. I believe we need to get out of here.
Nothing else, right?
That's it.
All right, I move that the board adjourn their meeting as the Water and Sewer Commissioners and reconvene as a Select Board.
Second.
Rise, roll call.
None do I.
Ryan, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, aye.
All right, we are no longer water and sewer commissioners. The next item on the agenda is a further discussion pertaining to Tea Kettle Lane earthwork permits. And this is going to be kicked off by our building commissioner, James Wisniewski.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, he's here to answer questions. At your last meeting, questions with regard to Tea Kettle Lane and the specific earthwork permits issued there too came up. And so what I did was I asked Jim to provide me with what we had on record, on file, and so he has done just that. So you have the information, and if you have any questions, he is here to try and help answer them.
All right. I believe this was my request, and I don't know that it was specifically to Mr. Wisniewski. I'm glad he's here, but I'll start this. So we passed the earthwork, earth removal regulation. Didn't have to go to town meeting. It was a regulation set by the select board.
Right.
It permitted the select board or the town manager to approve permits. At the time, we understood there was a permit. There was at Tea Kettle Lane. There was earth that had been that was available because of some building over there, and there was someone, specifically Duxbury Beach Reservation, was looking could use some of the stand from this building. But beyond that, we passed the earth removal regulation. When did the permits come in and when were they approved? And I guess this is the first thing.
Good evening, everybody. Jim Wisniewski, I'm the building commissioner. 2022 was the first one, and the second one was 2023.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact date I didn't know what I do have it in your packet that you have, but
Yep.
I think it was probably a few months after the regulations were passed, because we had to do our due diligence for the application that we had for the first one in 2022.
Yep.
And then the following year, we got another application for some more earth removal that people were interested in, which that took us, I want to say probably a good month and a half to vet that out, make sure that we were on compliance with the rules and regulations.
And this may be my ignorance or another board members, but when you say earth removal, it's not my understanding that it was sand mining. I guess my view.
That terminology is fairly new. That wasn't any of my discussions or understanding of it.
Okay, so what did you understand the first two permits, or the first one and the second one, to be for?
Both of those were earth removal permits. My understanding was that in the management plan that they were going to benefit the beach, but what's interesting about the earth removal permit that's in place right now, there's no language in the rules or regulations that the sand has to be a benefit of the town. So it's not anything that's really regulated in the earth removal permit regulations. So, but my understanding is that it was going to be used for the beach, but that was just a great benefit. But it's not something that is currently regulated to stay within the limits of the town.
I seem to remember, right, Amy, that there was an opportunity for the beach reservation needed sand, right? And so we created this earth removal permit. We did it quickly and to help our neighbor. And so the first permit went out in '23, and it was to help our neighbor. But the
22
22 was the
22.
first one.
was
But
the
the
first.
subsequent permits have they been also to help our neighbor Duxbury Beach, or they've been used as an opportunity to make some money by the person doing the excavating and hasn't been used on the beach?
I
Do you
can't-
know?
Well, I know that, I can't speculate, listen, no one does anything for nothing, so I'm sure there's some money to be made in this process.
Right.
But that's not anything that I need to review on this permit process. But
That's true.
my understanding is that I had an earth removal permit. It is to benefit the beach, as far as I know and understand it, but it's not anything that is a requirement of the earth removal
Sure.
process.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I know the original intention
Yeah.
was for that benefit.
That's right.
But
And
it's
that's why
not
we
anything
did it
that's in
so
the rules.
quickly we did it quickly and,
Yeah.
I mean, we been caught by it, so to speak.
We have, there were unintended,
I know that-
and we put a
consequences.
moratorium on it, let's
Yeah,
be.
and I just functionally, and this goes back to your due diligence, that
Yeah.
what was said that, or what was in the permit that, that they planned on doing? Because
If I
as
may.
I understood it, I thought there was dirt that was
Isn't
kicked up from removing, to making the homes, and that was going to be moved to the beach. I had no idea that there was mining to be done. Was that your understanding? Did they talk about how they were going to kick up more dirt or mine or however?
With respect to the second permit being issued?
Either one.
So my understanding was that they were to benefit the beach. That
Well,
that was my,
how were they going to do it? That's what I'm trying to understand here. Wasn't taking the dirt that was, go ahead.
It's in your packet, and it's pretty clear. Earth removal per a plan of January 24th of '24.
Uh-huh.
They were going to remove up to 99,000 cubic yards of sand for Duxbury Beach Reservation at the following locations. At 11 Modoc, they were going to use over 18,000 cubic yards. 24 Tea Kettle was just under 28,000. 28 Tea Kettle was just under 10,000. 13 Barn Swallow was 30,000. 35 Tea Kettle was 1,000. 47 Tea Kettle was 5,000. 67 Tea Kettle was 5,000. And it would have tree clearing according to the plan on all the lots except for 35 Tea Kettle. And the stumps would be chipped on site and dispersed throughout for erosion control.
I'm sorry,
It was very specific.
And these are all lots because, the separate addresses are lots because they were part of an approved subdivision?
that's 2023. I'm looking at 2024. There's no, the 2024 one, there's no mention of where it's for, the 2024 permit.
Okay.
Can you answer my?
I think I can to some degree, not exactly, but a lot of those lots were privately owned
Yeah.
by individuals that gave permission for the sand to be removed.
See, again, never the intent, when we went down this road, that was never in our thought process, so.
And we've never seen, I know there's a letter in here from somebody.
Yeah.
This is just, and we're not going back to 2022, but this is in 2023. It says, issuer Duxbury Selectboard, and it's a description of the activities that would take place on Tea Kettle Lane. I've never seen this. And I know that we don't have to, and the way the regulation is right now, that the town manager and yourself can review this, but I don't know if the applicants knew that this never went to the Select Board at all.
I will explain a little bit about that as
Yeah.
far as my process.
Mm-hmm.
When the rules and regulations were created and approved, Rainey and I worked on those and did our due diligence to establish a set that we felt was pretty comprehensive at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, our vision changes as time goes on. I lost my train of thought. Could you just
Sure.
go back for that? Could you clarify your question for me?
No, it's not, yes.
It was the letter,
Yeah, we just never saw, this is,
Oh, okay.
it seems like we're the issuer of this permit, but the regulations
The regulations.
provided some latitude for our town manager to do this.
Right.
Like he,
Actually, I think it gives me
It was-
the authority
Yeah.
Yeah.
solely
Correct.
to issue these
Right.
permits.
Yeah.
Right.
And so at the time when this happened, thank you for clarifying that. At the time this happened, I sought counsel about this because when I read the language, I felt as though maybe I didn't fully understand who is the permitting authority. I wanted clarity on that.
Right.
So I reviewed it with town council that because in section 8.1 of the general bylaws gives the authority to the select board to create the rules and regulations, under the guise of that, allowed me the ability to issue these permits, and that was in compliance that these were issued by the select board because the rules and regulations were approved by the select board. So that's why you probably didn't see that letter and why I acted on it with my.
That's
due
what the
diligence.
process dictates. In fact, that's why you and I created the regulations.
Right, I mean, again, I think, well, I'll say it again, we went into this with the best of intentions, but it has turned into kind of a nightmare.
And,
It went further than we thought.
It sure did.
and,
What's the nightmare?
The volume, I think the volume scale, the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sensitive location that this has occurred. I mean, it's an APOD. I think it's not, and we had this meeting, and when we rework this, it's just not consistent with the protections that we have worked so hard to first develop and then maintain in this town, especially when it comes to water protection. So I think it just simply is not consistent with those goals.
isn't there, it may just be scuttlebutt, but doesn't the town own a well on Tea Kettle?
No, they're basically, there's a well site, and they were doing groundwater testing, I believe.
Yeah, there are a few well sites there where the ground monitoring
Yeah.
came in from our peer review consultant and also was submitted by the applicant so that we could understand where the water table was, because in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, although the earth removal bylaws say that we can't excavate, or they can't excavate within 4 feet of the water table, the Aquifer Protection Overlay District limitation is within the zoning bylaw that doesn't permit that within 6 feet. So we had a discussion in the first permit that was issued that I wanted my peer review consultant to review to make sure we weren't close to that limit. In my understanding, we weren't
So we
close.
haven't exceeded the 6-foot limit
No.
with the APOD. Okay, because that's really important.
No.
Yeah, okay, thanks for clarifying that.
In my experience of this, I know the sensitivities of earth removal. I mean, I was a builder, and every time a shovel goes in the ground and a tree gets cut, my phone rings. And I knew the sensitivities, which is why I spent a lot of time on the first earth removal permit to make sure this process was well vetted. I fully understood it before I issued it. I fielded a lot of phone calls when that happened. I had the applicant reach out to all the neighbors and have discussions with them so they could understand the scope of it. But the reality is no one understands the scope of that kind of thing until they start to see wide open space happen, which is what's happened.
And we heard from the neighbors. I'm glad to hear that the applicant reached out to the neighbors. We did hear that there was no formal notice process. Maybe they did it informally. It sounds like you heard from some of the neighbors in advance.
I think the biggest request I had is that they had hoped that the earth removal permits in the future would have been more of an open special permit kind of a process so that they could chime in any concerns they had.
Yeah.
So there's only one permit that's open right now.
2.
I just find ER 23-1. What's the other one?
ER 22-4. That's the
That's not in our
first one that
package.
was issued.
It's what?
ER 22-4 was the first permit that
The
was
first
issued.
number is indicative of the year in which it was issued, so that was,
And the only reason it's
2022.
number 4 is because the first 3 were trials on me creating our system.
So basically, there's another permit out there, ER, what?
ER 23-1, I believe it is.
That's the one that's in my that I've got in my packet right
Yeah,
now.
that's
What-
the second one.
Second one, and the first one was what?
ER 22-4.
22-4, and that was for the same, because ER 23-1 says 99,000 cubic yards for Duxbury Beach Reservation. What does ER 22-4, what's that sand to be used for? And the
The
justification
beach,
for the permit?
same thing, yeah.
Same thing.
Yep.
So they're both being for the beach reservation?
That's in the management plan, yes.
How long are these in duration for?
Technically, if you read the rules and regulations, they say the permit's good for a year. And so the scope of the first permit, the reason I got to explain the process a little bit, if I can. So they're good for a year. I looked at that as long as we had forward progress and we're underway, that the permit was still in action with an end goal in sight. So I would periodically drive through the site to make sure movement was happening. The first one that was issued, the ER 22-4, the majority of that work was done, some replanting was done, but final grading wasn't fully established to the point that I could have a peer review consultant come in, because I was informed that they were going to be subdividing lots and creating house lots, which now would change some of that, with the expectation that these permits need to be wrapped up altogether when that happens. The second permit was issued with the same understanding. The majority of the earth removal permit was complete, with the exception of a couple lots that are I have applications for, where that additional soil from those properties are going to be removed, which is exempted from an earth removal permit because it's in conjunction with a building permit, right? So that's another challenge with that. But I had a conversation with Bo, who is here tonight, and he may want to speak about this, because I was trying to, hey, what's the end game? Where are we at? There's a lot of interest on this property. Let's get this thing wrapped up. And Bo tells me that we're probably going to be fully wrapped up with this thing somewhere in April, beginning of May. And that's when the foundations and grading for the proposed houses that are in there should be fully established. And then once we get to the point that Bo has it based on the two permits I issued, we're going to get an as-built plan from the applicant for both of those permits. Then I'm going to have my peer review consultant go in, assess the property. I'll meet out there with them and make sure that they're closed out as specified. Just get an idea of the whole process.
Is the remainder of the sand removal linked to the building permits, the construction of the new homes, whatever's left to do out there?
I can say yes to a point, but what I don't know is, get into the minutia. Did they have a few truckloads that came off one of those sites and it's sitting there waiting to be transported? I don't know the exact answer to that, but the applicant's here and may be able to comment on that.
Could you just explain to me what the difference between moving sand that's dug up for a home that's in a pile back there versus sand mining? And then maybe the applicant can speak to this, because
What's the difference between
yeah,
sand mining?
I mean, I picture sand mining. There's no end to it. It's just you're just sucking sand out of the ground, and you could do it till
That's also a commercial use that is not allowed in a residential area in this town. You cannot.
Well, it's in conjunction with an earth removal permit, so I'm not sure.
We're on a
I
slippery
agree with
slope
that.
here.
But all right, so
That's what I'm trying to understand.
So the difference between the two, in conjunction with a construction permit, there's always soil because you're displacing a hole in the ground, right? So that soil,
It's got to go somewhere.
we have no regulation over where that goes. There's
Right.
nothing for that. It's just normal process of business. As far as earth removal goes, it's being removed for a purpose, right? Whether it's being sold. In this case, my understanding was it was advantageous to the beach because of the nourishment and rebuilding certain sections because of the instead of buying it from Middleborough, Wareham, or whatever,
Sure.
a lot of time saved and money saved.
Understood.
So it was advantageous. That's the difference that I'm aware of.
I just want to make sure Fernando, you asked about Tea Kettle, and I had a conversation with Mark Cloud today about Tea Kettle, and because in my memory, it was a well site, and what it was laid out as a potential future well site, and apparently, it's my understanding that recent water testing done has shown that maybe the water quality isn't
It's got higher PFAS levels than Partridge or Depot. That's my understanding.
right. So again, it doesn't negate the point here that we probably should have been being really careful around any potential well sites in the town for water protection, because the worst thing you can do is start moving the earth for groundwater protection. That's just flies in the face of what we're trying to do. So again, we put a moratorium on this. We are, going to look at this and make some rules and regs that are much better for the environment, better for the town, and we'll look at this through that lens.
When is this wrapped up?
Should be
He said
end of
April.
April, beginning of May.
So
The
both,
applicant may have a tighter timeline, but for buffer purposes, I think probably potentially May, but it's pretty weather dependent.
yeah.
We don't know
So
what the weather is.
That's both ER 23-1 and ER 22-4, both will be finished, wrapped up by May.
Correct.
And basically, just a bit, for people listening in, both these operations, removal of sand, were basically to provide the beach reservation, our neighbor, with sand for beach nourishment. That was the only source, or basically the only product. Sand was removed for that purpose, and it wasn't removed for commercial gain elsewhere.
That is my understanding.
Mr.
If
Chairman,
the
if I
applicant
can-
decided to use a truckload of dirt here or
Yeah,
there.
no, if a truckload disappears, the ban.
Just to let you know,
There's a quote in the UK, it fell off the back of a lorry, right? No, okay.
Brian has a question.
Yeah,
I'm more than happy to support and help in the talks. We've had a meeting and a discussion about creating some new rules and regulations
Yeah.
that may be more restrictive and might change the process for some more input, and I'm all in favor of that.
Yeah.
Jim, we've heard from a number of residents who have expressed concern with what's going on, but I want to make sure our record is clear on this. We have a process, until the moratorium, we had a process. The applicant applied through that process, obtained permits. I'm not aware of any allegation or suggestion that the work has been outside of what's been approved.
I've gotten a phone call here or there, and it was more just, it turned out to be an educational aspect that, I visited the site, met with Freeman at one point to discuss a few things that were happening, because they looked at, the concern was that they had a commercial operation going on.
Right.
And part of that was that when they removed the soil, they had a process where they're sifting out multiple grade sizes of stones and then separating out stumps for proper, resource management, because they're pretty mindful, the applicant, about not wasting product. And one of my questions was, when we wrap this up, that stuff's going to be gone. I don't want to leave that stuff behind as eyesore, and it was confirmed that all that stuff will be gone.
Okay, but
No
to
other.
get back to the, I'm just trying to get simple answers.
Sure.
Which is, there was a permit issued. To our knowledge, there haven't been violations of that permit,
No violation.
right? Okay. And I understand the concern as the aesthetics and protection of groundwater. I completely understand, we validate all those concerns. But from the town's perspective, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the situation, which is, we had a process, the applicant followed the process, the work's being done in accordance with the process or with the permit, and it will be wrapped up at some point, April, May, whatever. But we can do an after-action report, so to speak, in that maybe there's a better way for the town to outline the process, if I can overuse a phrase tonight, for potential subsequent earth removal either here or elsewhere in town, right? That's,
Yeah.
okay, great,
Awesome.
thank you.
Hey, you're on point with this, Amy, right?
Yeah,
On the new, on the revised process, right?
yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
I mean, I think we've got to come up with some better
Yep.
rules and regs, and Jim's been great, and yeah, I think we'll get there.
And I think this helps you out too, but I think from when these are revised, that a butter notice and public hearing is really important,
I think it would be really important.
Yeah.
so you don't get stuck fielding
Yeah.
these calls. I'd rather hear on the front end
Absolutely.
the concerns of the public in an open forum rather than halfway through it. And
100%. Agree.
And where these earth removal permits are up to a certain amount, there's some way that that gets calculated at the end. I don't know how that works, but somehow somebody figures that out.
Yeah, so the proposed plans that we had show existing topographical, grades, and then that's reviewed by a peer review consultant. They estimate how much that is based on that change in the proposed topographicals, and then when we get the final as-built, that will be, determined. But
What happens if they take too much? Have to put it back.
the interesting thing is, if you think about the regulations, it's only regulated by an estimated amount of soil they're going to take out of there.
Right.
There isn't a max limit to an earth removal regulations that says you can only take X.
Well, that's something that we need to
Oh, yeah, but-
think about.
I think that, knowing the conversations I've had, they're
Yeah.
really responsible of staying within those limits, and I don't think there was any egregious attempt at all in any way to take more than what they
Right.
No, and
proposed.
we're not suggesting that. I mean, I think that it's lessons learned here.
Yep.
Is-
If you get in the scope of that thing, a plus or minus 5%,
Yeah, no.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
does anybody else want to be heard? We've been talking about your company for a bit. Do you want to? Thank you.
Hi, Bo Boynton, 48 Russell Road, Duxbury. I'm a contractor, a construction company by the name of Duxbury Construction. I just wanted to say that I'm here, and I just wanted to make the introduction, and thank you, and I feel that your concerns are valid, and I want to be a fiscal part of the community, a responsible part of the community, and thank you. And I'm just engaged and following along, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
Just,
Thank you.
Bo, just to confirm, do you expect this to wrap up in April and May? And is this just for Duxbury Beach Reservation?
Yes, I should make that. I feel that the permit process is really clear. There's a single page, and it says where is the earth coming from and where is it going to, as well as 20 other pages that are all the plans and documents and specifications and affidavits, bonds that we needed to get, letters of credit, a million other things. That is part of the current earth removal permit process, but it's very clear within the first page where is the material coming from and where is it going to. And I just wanted to bring that forward.
Good. Yeah,
I'm good.
good, no questions.
Thanks.
I might ask, since you are here, what is the public benefit to this earth removal, if you care to share? Thank you.
Chris Latazzi, Duxbury Beach Reservation, a nonprofit that works tirelessly to preserve the landform, which is what this project is, as well as protect the ecology. In order to preserve the landform, we need to continuously maintain it. Something that we've been working with the town for over 50 years to accomplish these goals. The product, people say sand mining. Other people say you're putting construction sand on the beach. It's all the same, if you will. So it's material or fill. We can only put material or fill that matches what's currently on the beach. So everything goes through a third party in Rockland that does an analysis to make sure that we're within the percentages allowable sand. So the product that we're talking about, the first permit, is why we now have a beach from a little north of Blakeman's down to the town's boardwalk. And the second project, and dates are a little different because it was issued in '23, but the work wasn't done till '24. So the second project was exactly why we have a resident beach now. And that runs from Powder Point Bridge on Oceanside all the way down to Crossover 1. The earth removal projects are completed, if you will, for those large amounts. But that protection protects all of Duxbury's 14.95 miles, to answer your question, as well as your 19 landings, and most commercial, residential, and municipal properties, of which quite a bit is located in a floodplain. So when you have Washington Street, King Caesar underwater, imagine what that would be without putting this protection, as well as Hall's Corner and flooding elsewhere. So this product went right to help the town. And currently now there's more sand that's coming out because of the homes that are being put in, which is sand removal, and that's going to be placed at High Pines, which will be immediately north and south of Crossover 3, as well as an area that we're very concerned about breaching that's a little bit further south than Plum Hills. So this material is really important, and that's why we were working really hard to get the material at the DPW site as well. The interesting thing is that Duxbury is full of eskers, which are where glaciers rub against each other, and they make a sand, but they also leave cobble. And you wouldn't be surprised to know that the material on the beach matches the material that's in town. So that material will also be used.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions? All right.
No,
We don't.
good.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it. And thank you. I know you're working overtime. So, all right.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Jim.
We have an update regarding the lane change barriers on Route 3, and I appreciate you doing this. I know this was a concern of our vice chair, appropriately raised in the last couple of meetings. So thank you.
Yep. Want me to read it?
Yes.
There you go. Dear members, as a follow-up to a question raised at your February 3rd meeting, I offer the following information, which hopefully provides some clarity. Excuse me, on February 4th, Sheila Scarzi, our DPW director, contacted Mass Department of Transportation to reiterate the safety concerns previously expressed, and the reply she received is as follows. Sheila, we are aware of the complaints. Unfortunately, Route 3 is a narrow roadway to begin with, and motorists can be heavy on the gas pedal through there. In light of recent events and those complaints, the state and design build team met with the state police for their input and have taken steps to make adjustments that will hopefully improve the commute through that area. Recently, we installed a temporary guardrail along the low-speed side of both Route 3 northbound and southbound so that we could remove the steel barrier along the low-speed side. Removal of the barrier has opened the road up a bit and alleviated some of the narrowing of the roadway. We are also adding additional signage to alert vehicles to slow down to 50 miles an hour when going through the work zone. We will also utilize yellow blinking lights with signs to bring more attention to the recommended speed that is posted. You should see these changes to completion in the next few days. I'll have our field inspectors drive the route to check the surface transitions that you mentioned. Please let me know if you would like to discuss further, and that was from Rod Jackson, who's the area engineer for District 5. Also, Mass DOT released a notice about the upcoming bridge demolition, which Sheila has posted on the DPW webpage, noting the traffic pattern change beginning February 7th. Crews are continuing to prepare for demolition work of the inside shoulder of the lanes of the existing bridges spanning Franklin Street, includes guardrail installation, which will take place at night. Demolition of the superstructure is now scheduled to begin the week of February 17th through the 21st, with overnight partial demo of the bridge spans occurring for approximately 1 week. Daytime demo of the abutment walls, piers, and footings will occur for approximately 3 to 4 weeks and is targeted to begin in March. Additional details with the start date and work hours of demolition will be sent in advance. The project team is going to establish a single-lane bidirectional traffic pattern on Franklin Street to allow for replacement of the bridges. This traffic pattern change is targeted to begin on Friday, February 7th, and will remain in place throughout the project. Finally, Deputy Fire Chief Brian Monahan provided the following information. This email contains what the fire department has done in regard to the Franklin Street Bridge project concerns. On January 30th, Captain Mary and Deputy Chief Monahan attended a planning meeting held at the local Mass DOT contractor office. The purpose of the meeting was to update all stakeholders with the project and a presentation of the project's contingency plan. During the meeting, Lieutenant Reardon of the Mass State Police and myself, being Brian, both brought up our concerns for the Route 3 traffic changes in the work zone and the motor vehicle accidents that included one fatality. The contractors stated that they are making changes to the barriers, adding signage and additional lighting. Brian was still waiting for a copy of the contingency plan, and that includes project timeline and project contact numbers, and he will share that with us once received. And then he also provided you with the notes from that meeting. And I concluded by saying, hopefully this information adequately addresses the concerns raised at the previous meeting, and if you have any questions, just let me know.
So it's all good. It's a big improvement. So, yeah, that's really good.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Renee, and thank you to Sheila
Yeah, you're welcome.
for passing our concerns along.
No problem.
All right.
To the Deputy Fire Chief and Captain Mary for attending the meeting with DOT and the police.
Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody in the public have any questions about the highway? Okay. There being none, we can move on to voting to open the annual town meeting warrant. Rainey, if you could just
Yeah, I'll walk you through
color to
it.
this.
So I still have, the new version of the warrant will come out tomorrow, most likely. Does anybody need a copy of the only version that we have now, which is the 23 version? If you don't have one, I have extra copies.
No, I have
Give me
one.
the date again, please.
There's only one. The 23rd of January.
January 23rd, okay. That's what I've got.
Anybody need one? Okay.
I don't think so.
What about you, Chief? You need one? Anybody in the audience?
23.
I got a bunch if anybody wants them. You're in charge. Thank you.
Is it 123?
Yeah.
123.25, yes.
Okay. All right.
So, my first recommendation to you is to use the motion to reopen the March 8th, 25 annual town meeting warrant.
Could you briefly explain why we're reopening?
Yep, I need you to please remove two articles, Articles 14 and 23.
May I ask why procedurally, when there's an article that is no longer relevant or changes for whatever reason, then town meeting is asked to indefinitely postpone? Why are
Correct.
we opening the warrant in order to actually remove these from?
One is to eliminate for future confusion, and the second is to move it from the annual into the special. One article, being 14, is no longer necessary and would be brought forward at a later town meeting.
Article 14 being the monies requested by the working group for the permitting and design to keep, again, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we can
open up.
discuss this, but I think I think this is fine to discuss right now. 23 makes sense. We've done that in the past because we have to do it as special.
Yep.
But for 14, oftentimes we just simply recommend indefinitely postponing it. And you're suggesting that it would confuse the voters if we.
Just to make it easier, yeah.
Can you just flesh that out a little bit for us?
Sure. Last week, I met with Fernando, Mary McKinnon, Candace Martin from the PFAS Working Group, Alston Potts from Apex Company, our consultant, Sheila Scarzi, Nancy, Tanya Trevison, and was Mark there?
Mark Cloud was, yeah.
Yeah, and Mark Cloud, to go over this specific article because I was trying to determine if it needed to be in the warrant and first to see if we had funding for it. Turns out we do not have funding for it. And as a result, it wasn't necessary to be in the warrant.
My only final question, just for the gentleman that asked the question before, we have deadlines for adding articles to the
This is it.
warrant. When is the word delete, you're suggesting we remove.
Yeah.
But when is the deadline for putting, for like citizens petitions and for adding?
Long,
It's like way back in,
Well, actually, it has been explained to me over the years that you could do it right up until we post this thing with the constable. And this is getting posted with the constable when?
We have to sign the pages, Tuesday.
Yeah, so,
okay.
What's the date for the folks listening? Tuesday, the...
next. What is that date? I don't know. Yes.
Yes,
So-
18th or 19th.
18th or 19th of, 18th or 19th of February.
But
Okay,
you
got it.
asked for those by January
Oh, yeah, because we like to button things up.
Yeah.
It's
before.
rare to ask you to reopen the warrant.
Yes, but you asked, we announced it back in November.
Oh, yeah.
That the deadline for submitting
Is December-ish, yeah.
December.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's focus on these for now. I just wanted to
Sure.
So my concern with with removing Article 14, which is the article that was keeping us moving forward with PFAS as well as long overdue needed infrastructure for water. By taking this out of the warrant, first and foremost, again, I've spent a long time talking earlier in this meeting about my desire to keep transparency and keep the taxpayers completely focused on what we know is coming down the road, this being a very big issue coming down the road, whether it's this town meeting or next, it's coming. So that being said, removing this from the warrant takes it out of the taxpayer's mind for the moment while they're thinking about the override. It also does not seem to be consistent with what we've been hearing from the task force, which was to at least move forward with the permitting and design, because we spent tax dollars and time and residents' time at a previous town meeting advocating for monies up front so that we would be ahead of this situation and that we would not lose any ground. We would keep having the funds available to move forward with no delays, and that would be consistent with being in compliance in the year 29 when the state is requiring us to be in compliance. So I'm concerned about the removal from the warrant on those, for those reasons.
Let me see if I can help you with that then. This does not jeopardize the timing at all. In fact, we met with that group. Candace was there. I know you sent subsequent emails. I have my notes from the meeting, which articulate everything I'm about to tell you. So, the first question we had was to determine, can we still carry out the pilot studies on the 4 recommended wells? And the answer to that was yes. And those wells are Depot, Tremont, Damon, and Millbrook in the amount of $400,000. The next question we had was about engaging the services of an OPM and starting the work on the preliminary engineering and the permitting of the priority well. And we came up with estimated timeframes, which were to meet with the OPM, tie and bond before the pilot testing, which we did today, and then let them know that we have a schedule, which is March and April, to do the pilot proposal, and then on or about May 1st through December 31st, begin the pilot testing process, and then on or about October 1st, do the preliminary engineering and beginning on the priority wells. And then we needed an estimated cash flow from October 1st to July 1st, including the preliminary engineering and permitting costs and OPM costs, so they were advised of that as well. And then we took a look at how much funding we had available from the FY25 Articles 14 and 15. In Article 14, we have $210,000, and then in Article 15, we have $1 million, which is unspent. So the OPM from now until October 1st is going to support the pilot studies and develop the RFPs, and then after October 1st, the preliminary engineering will begin. The next question we had was, can we use the remaining funds in Article 14 and 15 for the pilot study, OPM, and preliminary and engineering permitting? The answer was yes. Bond counsel confirmed that Article 15 can be used for the pilot studies, design, and permitting, and OPM. Article 14 cannot be used for the OPM. So that answer was no. However, the way we're going to address that is at the March town meeting by moving the funding out of the existing project and into a new one, the new one being a supplemental appropriation article, which we already have in the special. It could potentially be done in the special town meeting warrant under supplemental appropriations, just needed to confirm that with town council, and we did that.
Wait a minute, explain that again. So it's being moved from the regular town meeting into the special, why?
So we can get access.
Get access to the money faster.
There's $210,000 left over from Article 14. So we're going to move it to Article 15 at the special town meeting before the annual town meeting, so that we have $1.2 million available for OPM, pilot study, and preliminary engineering design in
The
2025.
1.2 that's already been approved at the
Yes.
previous
Correct.
town meeting.
Correct.
It's enough to keep the ball
We're
rolling.
moving it into the special this March to be able to get to it quicker,
Yeah.
so we don't have to.
There's 210,000. There's 210,000 left of Article 14.
Understood, but this was an article that was already passed at a previous town meeting. Why would that funding not be available now?
The 210,000 is not available for OPM work. We want to bulk up the balance to 1.2 million. So we don't leave 210,000 in that one that we can't use.
We have to reallocate it
We
to allow us to
reallocate.
be able to use it for the OPM part.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to hear from, I don't see Sheila or Mark here, and I do see Candace here, who's been chairing the group. I do want, it was my understanding that if we didn't move forward with an appropriation of additional monies other than what we already had, that there very well could be a delay in our compliance because of a timeline that had been established. And I'm just concerned that,
But let me keep going.
yep,
So the next question was, if so, when will the remaining funds in Article 14 and 15 run out? And what will the gap be if funding is available in FY '27? In meeting with them, that was to be determined. It will depend on the release of the pilot studies, and in fact, our OPM confirmed that today. So there's work to be done. The gap is one of perception, so there will be delays here and there, but nothing that we can't mitigate. And then finally, is Article 14 in the draft annual town meeting warrant and the associated ballot question yet to be drafted necessary for this upcoming town meeting? And the answer was no. And the reason for that is there's a number of factors. In the FY '26 Water Department budget, there is no capacity to pay for additional debt services to pay for a borrowing authorization. The board water commissioner's fee hearing is scheduled for March 24th, but you've asked to have that sooner, and the water rates would go into effect by July 1st. Also, the town is transitioning into quarterly billing. That data will become available during the pilot study and will be indicative of our consumption. The town needs to make sure we are generating adequate revenue to cover costs and keep the department running. Water improvements need to be funded through our water rates. We will be seeking to use the supplemental appropriations article in the special town meeting warrant. Thus, the answer is no. Article 14 is not needed in the March 25 annual town meeting warrant.
And while I appreciate, I mean, it's great that you took notes and they're in front of me, but they've been in front of me for 5 minutes. And there's a lot here, a lot of discussion, a lot to wrap my head around. So I apologize if I'm not following that quickly. This is a lot of information and a bit of a surprise.
So
Well, we've got to go through the whole warrant, so there's all kinds of surprises ahead, I guess.
Why don't we, Amy, why don't we do the following? Let's put this back on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can discuss it again there once we've had time to
No,
read it.
it'll be in the warrant then.
This
Okay.
is to go to the,
That's why I was doing this
Oh,
tonight.
okay, right.
It's okay. If it stays in there, fine. I was just trying to make it cleaner. Because people may ask, why have we got a ballot, why have we got a question like this in here without a ballot question? Because that's what it requires.
Because yeah.
Because it's a debt exclusion authorization, so you need a ballot question to go with it.
so even if it passed, we wouldn't have the money to
Right.
appropriate
Well,
it.
we're not going to put a question out there. Yeah, no, we wouldn't. There's no funding source.
The thing is that the whole objective of funding, right? The funding for the water quality master plan and for what PFAS mitigation we have will be funded by the water rates, right? So we'll borrow money based on the water rates. Oh, Mary's here. Mary.
I thought I asked that question last week and
Yeah,
got.
Mary, do you want to basically funding for
no.
PFAS and for the master plan, with the water
It's easier to
water
sit there.
quality
Go for it.
master plan?
Here, you can sit right there.
Yeah. Remember it's basically the $40 million that's in the water quality master plan for basically upgrading the existing infrastructure,
Okay.
right? And then basically the monies that we've got, at least one PFAS treatment plant around 40 million, and we're still trying to figure out whether we'll need any additional water treatment plants.
Okay.
The idea was to reopen the warrant to remove the proposed Article 14 that we talked about last week, which was the funding of the engineering and design and permitting
Right.
for water quality improvements based on the notes that you've got in front of you, which we went over earlier.
So I'll ask this,
Question?
you know, of what value is having Article 14 in the warrant? Would a yes vote be meaningless because we don't have the money to appropriate for it?
We do not have the funding to appropriate for it, no.
Okay, so, and we don't have a ballot question to do a debt exclusion for that 2 million. So that's what I'm asking, that's.
We do not have a ballot question for the debt exclusion. We've talked before about having water rates support water infrastructure improvements. A ballot question does not do that. A ballot question would be putting something on a tax bill.
Right.
Which doesn't make sense, right? Because so there's lots of vacant land that receives tax bills that are not consumers of the water system. And there are tax exempt properties who don't receive a tax bill who do use our water system.
And that's maybe a discussion for the water rate discussion whenever we have it. I'm just trying to, we're trying to understand whether to remove Article 14 from the warrant. And from a financial perspective, why should we remove it?
Well, first of all, to have a clean warrant, so if you're not going to move forward the article, why have it there? This is the opportunity to.
Why would you recommend it to remove it?
Why would I recommend? Because there's no funding to be appropriated for that article.
Okay.
So there's no purpose in having it there.
Thank you. That's all I was trying to
Okay.
get out to the public.
But I think, to be fair, the funding has evolved, right? As we think through strategically how we deal with funding the improvements in the existing water system and to deal with PFAS mitigation, basically we've shifted to the water rates, as you've explained, as being the source of cash to be able to pay back the bond, right? That we will
Exactly.
we'll have to borrow
Right.
against,
But it
right?
seems
To
that.
cover,
So, go ahead.
sorry, to cover, water rates should cover both your existing operations and maintenance as
Correct.
well as your future capital improvements, correct?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that concept. However, that's the change in that, obviously, this was an article that was drafted for the warrant that had to have some type of a money attached, an amount of money attached to it. So that change in thinking, in that the water improvements need to be paid exclusively through the water rates. I mean, that change is resulted in asking us to now remove this from the warrant article, and from the warrant, I'm concerned that that change in how we're going to move forward is going to delay the project and thus could result in a delay of compliance.
Let me back up a little bit. We weren't even aware of the dollar amount of this thing for about maybe 2 weeks ago. I had no idea how much this article was going to cost.
I still don't know how much this are. There's no amount in there.
We don't put dollar amounts in articles, but it was over $2 million.
And it was for the permitting and engineering, design, and permitting it was the perceived next step in the process of the timeline that had been agreed upon, so.
Which still stays in place.
Yeah, and so what you're,
To answer let me try and answer your question, Amy, all right? So basically, we spoke with both Tide today, I believe, right? And they're going to put together a schedule based on that $1.2 million that we got available for 2025, and to see where we land up based on a realistic schedule. There could be a couple of months gap, we don't know yet, between when the funding runs out, the 1.2 million runs out, and we get we can start spending money and we borrow money for fiscal year 27 budget. There could be a couple of months gap.
So we're borrowing money again.
But from the water rates is going to fund the money, fund.
So we're
fund the
borrowing
capital.
money, but we're paying it back from the water rates.
Correct.
Well, I depending on what the article is, I'm not going to commit to borrowing. It
what's the
depends
last
on
article?
what is being.
no, it's the last
For
article.
fiscal year
14.
27.
Oh, that has already been approved. That's what you're referring to.
No.
No.
Article
No.
15
Let me ask it. So we have Articles 14 and 15 from the.
from last year.
Yes. How is that money going to be borrowed? Are we going to apply that to water rates?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That $1 million article will be applied to the water rates.
So there will be a gap. There is a concern that there could be a few-month gap. So again, my question is this.
It may not affect our compliance.
No.
The issue is, Amy, there's so many moving parts to this, right? We still don't know fully yet what our priority well is.
Correct.
All right? I've been involved in conversations, and depending on, I'm going to be blunt, depending whether it's a Monday or a Tuesday, depot's in, depot's out, lake, whatever.
Sure.
Lakeshore.
Lakeshore's in, Lakeshore's out. Even amongst folks, there's really, lots of backwards and forwards. What we have found out as well is in terms of compliance, we still haven't, we've got the EPA requirements, but we haven't seen what DEP's coming up with. Like you said, our water rates are increased, and therefore we don't know what's going to happen to our demand. The requirement for depot is because we need to meet summer demand, and we haven't had to meet or need depot for 10 years. And so we're basically spinning our wheels, trying to figure out what the priority was, which wells we're going to do. With all these moving pieces in here, it's very difficult for the team. We have landed at least on the pilot. There was a big discussion where we wanted 5, we wanted 4, but we finally landed on the pilot. We've got both Tide, which was our project manager, owner's project manager, which would come in today, have a meeting, and we're looking to them to build forward the schedule with realistic timing for when we think we can start the design. We've said October 1st when we start the piloting, but again, it all depends on RFQ. You've got to put it forward. So there's a lot of moving pieces in there that we have not yet sat down and finalized the whole progress. So I'm just being open. It could be a couple of months. In a week's time, it could be we got more than enough money, and we've got basically, we'll be looking at funding, planning for funding in fiscal year 27. So, Amy, I'm
And
trying
Ty
to.
and Bond weren't concerned about the gap at all.
And
I wasn't involved in that conversation.
Who's not concerned about the gap?
Our owner's
Our owner's project manager.
one,
Okay, that's contrary to what we've been hearing,
But
so.
you've been hearing, again, this is, it's basically data or thought process that's 2-3 weeks old, right? And so this is,
And so,
it just moves at a
What-
pace that we can't keep up because we only meet once a week.
you are correct, Fernando. There are a lot of moving parts. The other variable that's a big part of this equation is consumption, right, and conservation. And so a big part of which wells we need to treat or the extent of the treatment is going to be driven by whether we can implement some conservation measures here. And we all know that by raising water rates, that's going to more than likely have some impact on existing consumption. So we are currently in the process of migrating to a quarterly billing cycle so that we can, or one of the objectives is so that we can more quickly receive consumption data in shorter periods and tie them to seasons, so, and as well as to see the price elasticity of water rate increase impacts. So that all has to come together in order for us to answer this PFAS remediation issue in its entirety.
Okay.
Where, just in terms of the quarter, sorry, Fernando, don't mean
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you, but in terms
No,
of
no.
timing, the game plan, or that we're working through with our vendors, is the March and April current water billing cycle will go out as is, and then beginning in July, we will be doing our first quarterly reading in order to issue those bills in August. So that's happening in the coming months, so that we can get that feedback on water consumption as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Amy, my main concern, and still continues, is we still talk about depot. We haven't used it for 10 years. And I'm really concerned that we end up building a PFAS mitigation plan for $20 or $30 million that we don't use.
Oh, I have
And
no
so
desire to do that.
there's so many moving pieces in there. I struggle.
I
I struggle.
completely understand that, and I appreciate all the work that the group has been doing and trying to stay on top of this. But I will make just a couple of points. That we have had $1.2 million already approved at town meeting that we haven't even used. So we should be
Right.
moving forward with those piloting studies now. But that money has sat there because of, because we haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
Because of all the moving.
But again,
all the moving, this
but
is-
in order to continue to move forward without a gap,
Yeah.
if we know, we may not know which wells, we may not know the amount of consumption, how many we're going to end up having to eventually do, but we know that we're going to have to do some infrastructure and PFAS mitigation in some capacity. So to not move forward and to create a gap which puts in question compliance worries me, and I'm just going to cut to the chase, and I want to say, because my job is to advocate for the residents, I just want to make sure that, we're not trying to take something off the table because of this operating override. It has to be part of the conversation to look at all of the issues that the town is facing, whether at this town meeting, at a special, or at next year, or in 2 years. We have to just keep as transparent and open as possible. So I just want to make sure.
I don't know that an unnecessary article is going to facilitate that discussion.
I think, let's be clear.
Yep.
So there's two things, right? So we will work as a select board to make sure people are aware of the impact on their tax bill, on their CPC bill, on all the bills, now in the future as best we can with data, with information, all right? We want the right numbers put in there. So that's going to happen, Amy, right? That answers your second question. Your first question around, is there a gap? Are we going to be out of compliance in 2029? Based on what I know so far, I can't answer that question, all right? But everybody's working hard to meet that target. And we're not trying to hide stuff. We're just trying to make sure, like you do and I do, we spend our money wisely at the right time, right place. I keep on repeating, I don't want to rush into this and build a PFAS plant that we don't need and we mothball. There's so many moving parts, Amy, that we're trying to collate all the data to make an informed decision going forward. All right, and I've been pushing for PFAS mitigation for 2 years. And thank you, Candice, for stepping that, because if I hadn't have pushed it for 2 years, we would still be having this conversation. We are moving at a pace based on the information that we have with all the moving pieces. We cannot move any faster because the concern is, I think, that we don't want to make the wrong decision. This is a lot of money, and the team is working hard to ensure that we will be in compliance in 2029. That is.
Does anybody from the public wish to speak?
This Martin, 59 Gurnett Road. We had a meeting tonight with the working group to give an update from meetings yesterday. Also got an update from the discussion with the OPM.
Okay, good.
And so in agreement with all that's been said, when it comes down to moving forward, I'm glad we have the OPM on board, because I think a third party will drive some of the decisions, because we go around in circles.
Yeah.
Lakeshore will not have water treatment. So if we have water reduction, that well stays inactive. It requires Depot to be put back online. There's a lot of reasons why we would put water treatment at Depot and not Lakeshore. So it's very likely Depot and Tremont would have a water treatment plant. Tremont has issues with iron manganese. It's all like, so the issue is no one wants to make a decision. And when you even go through the pilot studies, those aren't going to help you decide. We're not going to have water reduction to eliminate 2 wells. One suggestion was to limit our focus, make a big boy decision and say we're going to do the Depot Tremont pilot studies and focus on that. We could save $200,000. It's something that will be directed towards the OPM for their advice, having looked at the prioritization. One suggestion we could do is to keep the visibility. There's no need to get the $200,000 from Article 14 right away. We have $1 million. We haven't spent that yet. We could keep the Article 14 in the regular town meeting and explain that we're transferring funds, and while the intent was to request additional funds, we want the water rates to cover the cost of the project and not to have that cost absorbed through some people that don't even use town water. So the right thing is to increase the water rates, but if you kept the warrant article in 14 and say I can revise it to say it's the transfer of funds only, and then you keep the visibility to the people that this project is coming up. It's very likely there will be 1 water treatment plant in the next 5 years. I don't know if the second one would be in that 5 years, but the rate study should reflect 1 water treatment plant, at least for covering the cost of that potential capital project. My 2 cents.
See, look at that. The Depot just won't go away, right?
I don't think it will, and even tonight, people agreed, but that today is a Monday, so tomorrow is a
We'll see
different
what
day.
happens Tuesday.
But I think the OPM will help drive that, and whether we do all 4 wells or just focus on 2, I think they can help us get to
Good.
that.
And if I remember correctly, the average cost per well is about 40 million?
Right, even, so that's where the
Put
OPM
that-
will help with
Yes.
us. Those costs are very conservative. They're also based on like a state funding grant that you require all American-made material. That added $3 million on. It's just, there's a percentages on percentages. The OPM will help drive that. If we're using for the rate study, the 40 million or the 38, I think it's a conservative number and can be challenged a bit.
Thank you, Candace.
Just this idea of the million or so that we have left, does that, do you have any concerns about that not carrying us through to for a while? I know we have no idea.
Right. If, like, my estimate, we could have a 2 to 3 month gap, but it's, we're going from estimates, but it's
The money that
keeping
town
us
meeting
moving
gave.
forward.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Candace.
All
Ready
right.
for some motions?
Yeah, I think, unless there's any other questions or comments, happy to take some motions. All right, let's start with the.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify something. Did you describe that we have put so the existing Article 14 that was voted last year is specifically, the scope of it is just for a prioritization plan, and what we want to do is
Move it.
broaden so that
It's
is
in the
in the
notes.
special town meeting warrant.
Correct.
Along with a couple of other transfers that are going to happen, and it's Article number 1, so it's going to be the first thing we talk about when we get to town meeting.
So
Okay.
why don't we go through this slowly, and if there's any questions, we can stop. Right.
I move the Select Board reopen the March 8th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll start with Article 14. I move to remove the draft Article 14 entitled Funding of Engineering, Design, Permitting, and Construction of Water Quality Improvement Projects for the Town's Public Drinking Water Supply from the March 8th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything, Fernando?
No, I'm just, can we open the discussion again?
Sure.
Did you change your mind?
No, but
Discussion.
discussion. No, I'm reflecting, some people, we're not trying to hide anything, right? We're not. We've been talking about this for years, about the fact that we need PFAS, that is going to cost a lot of money. So I don't think we're trying to hide it from the residents. I mean, surely it's been in the Clipper, it's been everywhere. It's been all our meetings, we've talked about that, right? So we're not trying to hide it, right? But I'm concerned that if we remove the 14, people might think we're trying to hide stuff.
You will have the opportunity to explain that under Article 1 of the special, which is actually the first action we take under the supplemental appropriations. Nothing's being hidden. There's no money for this. That's the reality. There's no funding source for this article.
But when it was
Nothing's
put
being-
in the
and
warrant,
everything is-
there was.
everything is still
There was no
proceeding.
funding for it.
Everything
No,
is still
it was-
proceeding.
It was put in there without clear,
Direction.
it's been moving along, right? So anyway.
Because I think it was always the intention, at least my understanding was that, we would be in the position of needing to borrow money, as we did in previous articles, to move this forward until such time as the water rates could be adjusted. So, again, I don't disagree with the people who use the water should have, pay for this. It's tough for someone who has a well to have to pay for any of this. So I understand that strategy, but I am concerned that, what we've been telling the community is going to cost, now we're talking about a $40 million hit, which is, horrifying.
Okay,
But
let's
we were
include
talking
it.
$100 million before, so.
Let's include it, right? And then we can have
Well,
that
I don't know. I
conversation.
mean, why are we putting an article in the?
Exactly.
Well,
Can I offer
I don't-
a
go ahead,
comment?
Karen.
And
Okay.
definitely
Just a-
postpone it.
Just a suggestion, what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
is that there's a message that this board is trying to communicate to the public, so why, and with every warrant article, there's an explanation below them.
yeah.
So why don't we cull some of the language from part of that draft warrant as the explanation for why we're requesting the transfer
To the
to have
supplemental.
broader action?
The supplemental.
Correct.
We're going to discuss
Would that
PFAS in the
address the
supplemental.
issue?
And if you want to stand up at town meeting and explain the supplemental appropriation and why we're keeping
Yeah,
the
okay,
ball
and why
forward.
are we doing it? What's the
We
latest?
still have $1 million left over from 2025.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not moving the ball forward here.
We are progressing, right? Okay, all right.
So that's a yes?
That's a yes, and we'll stand up, I'll work
unanimous.
with the OPM and with Candace and put together a briefing pack, and I'll share it at the special.
And then,
And I will say that, a lot of people aren't used to, the special has been used more in the last 10 years than was ever used before. And I think, we're all, we try to limit what's in the special as much as possible. So a lot of town meeting participants don't necessarily show up at the first bell. So,
need to.
if this is, a conversation, and I hope people will come
Yes.
out for the earlier show, because
and it's
it'll be important.
and it, financially, it's the 200,000 that town meeting's already appropriated. We're just trying to use it by putting it in the special for the OPM.
We're trying, we have to change the purpose,
Correct.
so that right now it's narrowly focused to just deal with a prioritization plan.
Yeah.
All we're doing is putting it into a different article with a much broader description.
Right.
So that it can be utilized for whatever the needs are to keep this thing moving forward.
Okay.
Right, but to Amy's point, it's not new money.
It is not.
No, it's not.
Okay, can we move to the next one?
Yes.
All right, aye.
So it's
I made
unanimous.
aye.
You already voted.
Oh, did I?
He's enthusiastic to vote twice.
You're unanimous.
No, I was open for discussion, okay, moving on.
I recommend, let's see, I move to remove the draft Article 23 entitled CPC Land Purchase from the
Go ahead,
annual
Ed.
town meeting
Hold
warrant.
on one second.
That's Article 25. is that one.
Oh, well, let's see.
Article 23. I gave an update. I updated this morning.
You updated?
Yes,
But
I
it
said-
still says Article 25 in here.
Oh, does-
I see Article 24.
No.
It says Article 25 on the draft dated
Okay.
January 23rd.
Thank you.
So the one you sent out.
But in my motion, it
You're
was
right, it is 25.
23.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
All right, so I'm going to withdraw that motion and offer the following. I move to remove the draft Article 25 entitled CPC Land Purchase from the annual town meeting warrant. And the rationale for this is that the landowner has requested that the proposed article not be considered at the March 8th, 2025 annual town meeting.
Okay. I recuse myself from this discussion. If there's no deliberation about it or no questions from the audience, I'll stay in the room and abstain from the vote. Does anybody wish to discuss this any further than this
Nope.
explanation? Does anybody from the public have any questions about it? All right, there being none, I will take a vote.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
should say
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. All right.
So the next one is Article 20, no, oh yeah, 24.
I think I got that one right.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
All right. I move to remove the draft Article 24 entitled CPC Construction of 2 Tennis Courts at Wadsworth Park from the annual town meeting warrant, and further to place said article on the March 8th, 2025 special town meeting warrant. The rationale is as follows. If approved, this article will fund the construction of 2 replacement tennis courts at Wadsworth Park as the current courts are in disrepair. Having this article appear in the special town meeting warrant will allow for the use of funds prior to July 1st, which will coincide with the donated playground renovation project and reopening ceremony to commence in the spring of 2025.
Anybody have any questions or concerns? Take your time.
No, just hope people come out for the special, too. We're going to be spending money.
And we have money from CPC to do this way?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? All right. There being none, I need a second. and then,
Second.
Oh, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and the next one is for individual articles.
Yep. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I give you a copy of the one-liners as they stand.
Do we need to close the warrant?
No, not
Not
yet,
yet.
please.
Not yet.
The reason is, what I'd like you to do is take your warrant. I've highlighted the, in the column that says BOS vote. Those are the ones that, if you so chose, you could vote recommendations this
Sorry,
evening.
one way around.
And you have a warrant, and so we can actually talk about if you are comfortable voting any of these things, because some of you may have had the opportunity to attend Finance Committee meetings where these have been discussed. And if you're comfortable, we can move forward with votes. So the first one that I would suggest is you could vote on Article 2, which is the reports article. Sure. Which is basically to receive the reports.
Okay.
Any discussion on that?
We'll make a motion.
There we go.
I move the Select Board recommend approval of Article Number 2, entitled Acceptance of Reports in the Annual Town Report, and the March 8th, 2025 Annual Town Meeting warrant as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next one would be Article 3, compensation of elected officials, with the exception of any of the items that have asterisks in them.
So we are taking no position on our recommended salaries,
Yes, sir.
just the assessors.
Guess
That's
there's
correct.
no raise
There's
for
no
us this
salary
year.
there. It's printer ink.
Well,
But by the way, I contribute my stipend back to the general fund.
There you go.
very nice.
Thank you.
And town clerk and moderator.
Does Amy need to abstain for you from this?
Yes.
You have to abstain because of the assessors.
Oh, okay, I'll abstain.
Thank you.
Can I get a second?
Second,
I didn't move anything yet.
Oh,
on this
so
one.
you did.
No.
I second the move.
I move the Select Board recommend approval of Article Number 3, entitled Compensation of Elected Officials, in the March 8th, 2025 Annual Town Meeting warrant as presented.
That's second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. The next one would be Article 5A, which is the operating budget. That is the omnibus budget. That has been voted and recommended for approval by the Finance Committee.
Rainey,
Yes.
I would like to have a discussion about the funding of salaries before we do that.
Oh, that's not on tonight's agenda. The reason I didn't highlight it,
I don't wanna-
it is coming.
I know,
Yeah.
because it's baked into the 5A and
No, it isn't.
5B.
No,
No,
it's separate and
not.
standalone.
It's a separate standalone article.
So how do we budget for something that, if we don't anticipate the increases in salaries?
What?
Well, the funding of salaries contemplates increases in people's salaries. So how does a budget not contemplate that? It was a question I asked early on. Is 5A and 5B, does it include or
We
contemplate?
were told yes.
What?
5A, does 5A,
No, so
No.
5A includes contractual step increases for employees based on already adopted collective bargaining agreements. But Article 4, any COLA or other adjustment to compensation happens in Article 4, separate and distinct from 5A. That's
But we
always
were
been the
told that
case.
it was that the article, that the compensation study, which is in Article 4, was baked into the sustainable budget that's 5B.
Yeah.
So.
So we need to understand that.
So Fernando's saying yes, but you guys, I'm confused.
So it is the funding, so funding within the overall budget is available and has been set aside for some impact of Article 4A. So you have Article 5A, which stands on its own, which has always been the case for you guys.
Yep.
And you have Article 4, which stands on its own, which has always been the case for the town of Duxbury. So
In the
moving-
last 5 years.
Okay, all right, in my lifetime.
Yeah.
In Mary's lifetime, yeah.
Yeah. And so those two items are separate and distinct and voted separately at town meeting. This year will be the exact same process. So any adjustment to salaries that is being proposed for non-union personnel will be handled under Article 4. And the budget, the omnibus budget, is handled under 5A.
Yep.
Let me ask this a different way.
Okay.
Just pick it up, I'm not gonna, I'll make up a department. Department X gave you folks a budget under the balanced budget and under the sustainable, and the 5B. Was that budget based upon Article 4.
That we received from the department?
Yeah, that we've been presented at every one of these meetings that we've been going line by line. When they gave a budget for, say, $30,000 or $300,000, was that contemplating the increase in these salaries?
I want to make sure I understand your question, because
Yeah.
my initial response is no.
Mine too.
Why?
So, because that would, the department head would then make an assumption about compensation.
Yeah,
And at the time that they put their budgets together, the compensation study results were not available.
exactly my
So
point.
the answer is no.
Okay.
So for example, let's just walk through an example just to make sure I'm answering the right question, right?
Mhm.
So the conservation department is
Sure.
a small department, and so they have a couple of people, and when that department put together a budget, and other departments followed suit, if an employee in that department, based on their collective bargaining agreement that they are already in, if that employee is entitled to a step in the contract for FY '26, yes, that was included
Okay.
in the FY '26 request from the department, as it should be.
Mhm.
But all of the contracts are expiring, and so there is no salary schedule or no proposal for any department head to include a compensation increase beyond a step increase.
So, all right, so for the balanced budget, they stand alone. Now, for the sustainable budget,
5B.
does that contemplate these increases in salary?
Yes, for the override budget that you're talking about in the 5-year projection,
So that would contemplate Article 4.
correct.
It's got 600,000 in there.
Is included in this, is included in the
Yeah,
override.
but the thing is, it's included as an article below. It's included in an article below, here. I'm,
Yeah.
there's the balanced budget at the top there, and the over about 5A and 5B is there. But it's always a separate article. Remember, we vote on it separately, right? So you can see here, $600,000 is in the sustainable budget for fiscal year '26. It's included in
From
there.
Article 4.
From Article 4, correct.
Right, and that's, I guess my point is, to be able to vote on the sustainable budget, I think we need to get we need to provide the public, I've seen it, the public has, how are, that 600,000, or why we're,
You're referring to Article 4 now.
correct, we need to do Article 4 before we can do Article 5B.
5B, yes, but that's why I didn't highlight it. But 5A you can certainly do, because all that includes is the existing salaries.
So we are going to get 4 before we get 5B.
Yep, exactly. That's why I didn't highlight them, because those are
At
for
town
another
meeting,
meeting.
you mean?
No,
No,
for them
for
to
us.
vote, for them to vote recommendations on the
Because
lines.
we haven't had a discussion about 4. We presented it, but we haven't had a discussion about 4.
Exactly. The
We
only
haven't
one I'm
allowed
asking you
public
to,
come
the only
in.
one I'm asking you to consider tonight is 5A.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so just, you're talking about your balanced
The
budget
balanced
that
budget.
you gave back in December.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Which includes all the cuts and.
Yes, all the layoffs, everything. Yeah.
Now, focused on that, does anybody have a discussion on that?
Personally, I'd prefer to hold off on voting both of the budgets.
This one was already previously voted by the Finance Committee, for what it's worth.
So I'm just trying to understand, why do you want, just help me understand why we don't want to.
Well, I'm still thinking about the Article 4, the balanced budget with all of the proposed cuts, I never would have voted for that in the first. I mean, there was too many cuts. There was no ability. We never really had a discussion about it. I wouldn't have ever agreed to the cuts that were being proposed for the fire and the police, and it seems like we kind of moved past that one because everyone was so focused on the override budget. You know, again, I think that that's kind of the way that this has moved through the process. It continues that, you know, the fallback budget of 5, the first budget is that it's terrible. Those cuts are terrible.
Finance Committee said the same thing. I said the same thing. There's nothing I wanted to do. It's something I had to do. I have to have a balanced budget to be able to get the tax rate certified. Without it, I can't. That was the only way we could do it.
Well,
I think the figure is $1.7 million that we needed to find, and that's what the cuts represent. If you look at your table, that's the cuts, whether we cut it from the fire or cut it from the police, or we cut it from council and age, we got to find $1.7 million to balance the budget, right?
4.7.
No, that's,
No.
With it.
For the balanced.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Next one.
We had to
right,
cut.
but I think it was, you know, kind of the sacrificial. I think we took it from the most, you know, the priority departments, in my opinion. Again, I didn't have a say in where that money was being taken from, thus resulting in a budget that was, you know, horrifying. So to, you know, ask me to vote to recommend that budget is difficult, if not impossible.
So what, again, we have to, either choice, we don't recommend 5A? I'm just trying to figure out.
And I
I
wasn't,
think
I
what,
didn't think we were going to be doing
I think
this.
what Amy's saying is, in years past, we've prioritized public safety.
Correct.
And even giving people the good, the bad, the ugly about what a balanced budget would look like if we maintained their level services. What Rainey's saying is that he couldn't, with the 1.7, he couldn't do that this year. Is that correct, or you just didn't do this?
I couldn't. I didn't have the money. We only had a certain amount of money.
Right.
There it is.
So
The Finance Committee wrestled with the same thing. They didn't do it easily either.
And how did they vote?
They voted for every line that I recommended.
Because at the end of the day, let's play this out. If the override does not pass, we will be left with 5A, which is a budget that I can't support. If we're left with that, there would need to be sacrifices in other departments to cover my priority departments. Again, I was not part of, you know, this, so
this whole select board wasn't party of anything.
right, so,
It's not our
I think, yeah, we didn't, that was the review by Renee, Mary, and the department heads. They looked at the gap and came up with those numbers, but we didn't sit down with any of the departments. In fact, we didn't actually say, remember COVID, right? Remember when COVID came and we actually,
had
as a select
priorities.
board, we said, basically, we're going to prioritize schools and public safety.
public safety, public health, and then the schools. Yep,
But we
we had
need
a
to have-
prioritization.
But we need to have 5A as a management tool,
Mhm.
right?
We do.
For legal compliance.
Yep.
For
I
DOR.
can't get to 5B without 5A.
Right. So we're not saying, yes, we're endorsing this because we think it's a good idea. We're just saying, town meeting, we recommend you approve this for legal purposes, and let's please get to the discussion on 5B. Right?
But Brian, what if? What if?
What if? Then that's the reality. Then 5A is what people
Yeah,
will
but
live with because
that's-
it's what they want.
But that is so unfair to the resident taxpayer. That is just
Of
not
which I am
a
one,
fit.
so tell me how it's unfair to me.
Well, because then, you know, you've taken, you haven't you haven't given them any choice. You've taken public health and safety, you've taken from the fire department when there could have, you know, again, I wasn't part of the discussion, but if you prioritize, then you cut costs in areas that are of less priority. And so if we are to be left with 5A, depending on where the residents go, that would be really inconsistent with my goals.
Right, so can I just ask a clarifying question, right? So let's say 5B does not pass, right? The override fails at the annual town meeting and fails at the ballot box. The same thing that happened to Hanover. Hanover last year, and they actually got an override coming back this year. So so we're faced with 5A. As a select board, then we can say, okay, we got to find $1.7 million worth of cuts. Then can we go ahead and say, look, guys, we need to relook at the priority areas, and we need to sit down as a select board and focus on the schools and public safety and everything else. We've got to find 1.7 out of the beach. We don't do the beach lease. We hand the beach back. That's $1 million right there. We get rid of Council on Aging. I don't know. How do we, by sounds of it, we need to have another conversation on how we implement a balanced budget with those priorities.
Well, as a member of the Sustainable Budget Task Force, you know what we had to go through. We had to make decisions. I finally had to make decisions as to what was going to be cut and what wasn't. I couldn't shut down entire departments. Those are all the options we weighed. I had to make cuts where we could still keep the operation moving and maintain the continuity of the government. I mean, I can't shut down the Treasurer Collector's office. I can't shut down the accountants. They're just as important as the fire and police.
Right, no.
Because those guys won't get paid without them. So you have to look at these things, and that's why we made the cuts where we did. They weren't arbitrary. They weren't capricious. They were done based on my 30 years of doing this.
Yeah. So you looked at business continuity then, is that?
Absolutely. You have to be able to maintain the function of the government.
Is there any other buckets that could sustain public safety if we were in that 5A scenario, such as free cash or?
No.
Or just I think there was a $475,000 excess levy anticipated. Would we be able to survive? I want to give some assurance to the public that if people don't vote at the ballot or something like that, that they're going to have the same level of firefighters and police.
Well, that'll be up to them. This 5A budget isn't one that anybody wants. It's the one we have to have because it's all we can afford. We can't afford to buy things that we don't have the money for.
But it isn't. If there were choices made from the non-prioritized departments, there's HR, there's recreation, there's other departments that again, if we're faced with those choices, I think we have to have this conversation. We have to have a plan B.
We did. This is it. This is your fallback position.
But not as
it's not comfortable. It wasn't meant.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It's not easy. It wasn't going to be simple. It was
and it
very,
wasn't put to
very
us.
hard.
We weren't part of the decision making.
That's because that's how the process in the town of Duxbury has worked since 1987. There's a Town Manager Act that puts the responsibility, the onus on the town manager.
Is there any estimation when money would run out for when we would have to start laying off
June 30th.
firefighter or police officer
June 30th. Yeah.
of this year?
Yep. We have that
Go.
plan. We have that plan in place.
So
I hope we don't have to use it.
Actually, we could well be faced with Norwell's situation, right, where it failed.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we'll know March 8th, right, what the position is, and we'll certainly know by March 22nd. What can we do between March 22nd and June 30th to relook at the allocation and what options that this select board can at least take a look at and feel comfortable that we've done due diligence and on areas that are going to be cut, right? When compared to priorities are public safety, firemen and police and teachers, right?
We would wait until we need the vote, and
Yep.
then once we know after the 22nd, we will figure it out. We've got another town meeting, and I'll be telling you about later, happening on June 16th, so we would have to reconvene and do something then.
So we have another,
But I want to see what the vote is first.
So we have a special town meeting because we have to do the MBTA, right?
That's correct.
So that will give us an opportunity to relook.
If
That's what I'm
needed.
hearing.
If needed.
If the override fails, then we have an opportunity between March 22nd when we know the answer.
Yeah, that would be one option because it's an obvious date, but I think it all has to be wrapped up by September 15th. I think that's when isn't that on or about when we get our tax rate certified? Isn't it the 15th of September? For some reason, that date sticks in my mind.
No, it can be all the way up until November, so last year I didn't do it until after our November 18th town
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
But I would, DOR prefers that we get it in October.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, again,
Excuse me, I have a question.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get to you.
We'll definitely get, okay, you know one option, how about this, right? So by the sounds of it, why don't we vote just the bottom line?
that's all you are voting.
But we're,
You're just voting a recommendation on the
No,
article.
no.
You don't vote the specific lines. That's the Finance Committee. You just vote to recommend the article as presented. Remember, at town meeting, the Finance Committee, we go through their lines, their 99 lines, one at a time.
I want to have the option to relook at this if it fails, the allocation.
If it fails, we will be doing that.
I struggle with recommending a budget that is not in line with my priorities and a budget that I would ever have approved. So to ask me to do that, I think is really, really,
Okay, you can all vote against it.
again, what I'm here, I talk to a lot of people. What I hear is that people want a middle ground, and that just hasn't happened in any of these discussions. They
I suspect
want.
they're going to find it.
I think that they're going to go through the budget, and there'll be a lot of changes on town meeting floor.
I
I think that,
am planning on it.
All we do is recommend, right? So, okay,
Ready for motion?
yeah.
Oh, wait, there's a question.
Yeah, I'll take questions from the audience. I'll start with Alicia. Alicia, if we could stay, go ahead, Alicia. Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mike. First, I wanted to just say thank you to Amy for bringing this up. I think she's right. I think this represents concerns for a lot of people in town, including myself. And I understand that this is not an easy process. It was very tedious to get to where you're at right now. Making cuts anywhere is not easy. But I would be a little concerned that without the public having benefited from maybe some of the conversations regarding how things were cut and why, it could feel a little bit like, almost like a power play a little bit to kind of hold public safety hostage to get an override vote. It may ultimately work out the way that it is now. Maybe there aren't any changes that can be made, but I did want to find out if anybody from the town had pursued the approaching Plymouth to get some tax money from the residents out at Sagebrush. Because we're spending $300,000 every year to keep that bridge open when we're getting a new bridge, and it just feels like a tremendous waste of money when the town residents, although inconvenient, they can drive around to get to the beach still. So between the $300,000 on the bridge and the money we're subsidizing to take care of Plymouth residents, it just seems like we should be getting something back from them, so.
Thank you, Alicia. Bree?
Hi, thank you. I totally get it. I have sat through half the finance meetings just as a fly on the wall. I mean, I'm sure you guys see me sitting up here in Zoom land all the time. I recognize that this is the way that we've done it since 1987. I'm wondering what we do to change that. Because I agree that you are doing exactly what you are assigned to do, but I also agree with Amy that
I think you, select board, are really the ones that have the town kind of in your hand, and for each of the individuals on the select board to not have been part of that meeting. You know, I'm just wondering how we changed the process. What did we do in 1987 to change it, and how can we change it going forward?
Well, the town could take what I would view as a tremendous step back. Prior to that, you had an executive secretary serving in this position, or you could have a town administrator, which is a very different form of government also. That would require an article to petition the legislature to change the Town Manager Act.
Article 2.
I think we're getting a little beyond.
Those are great comments.
Does anybody from our physical audience have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for a motion?
I am, unless anybody on the board has any more questions. All right.
I'm not going to vote for this.
That's fine. I move that the select board recommend approval of Article number 5A entitled Operating Budget in the March 8th, 2025 Annual Town Meeting warrant as presented.
All those in favor?
You need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
I'm abstaining as well.
Okay.
All right. The
What's
next
next?
one would be Article 8, which I'm recommending that you indefinitely postpone, since we don't have...
At some point, we're going to do, right?
You are, yes. Yeah, just want to get through these first. So the next one would be, let's see, you already voted. Where are we? Article 9, electronic balloting.
I move the select board recommend approval of Article 9 entitled Electronic Balloting in the March 8th, 2025 Annual Town Meeting warrant as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the next one would be Article 11, cable access and technology.
It's being IP'd.
Are we using anything?
Oh, that's being
That's
IP'd.
why it's being
Yep.
IP'd.
IP that one too, please.
We're not using any PEG money this year?
No.
Huh. We didn't have
Because
any.
we've got so much money.
So we,
That's funny.
do you want me to speak to it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we appropriated $120,000 last year to the school department for some capital improvements. And we are not appropriating any additional funding to the school department right now. And for the town, so that these funds can be used for broadcasting for both town and school. Given the numerous problems and challenges that we seem to have broadcasting successfully from other locations, what I am hoping to do is to not appropriate money this year and give us some time with our new CTO, who joined us, I believe, today, and some other folks to help look at broadcasting capabilities in some of our other facilities and potentially use that funding at a future town meeting in order to improve things for the town side.
The upstairs at the senior center, that room is really problematic for audio at home. When you listen,
Is it? Okay.
it's really tough.
Okay.
But by
Yeah.
IPing
So
this...
that's the game plan.
Yeah, I know we're IPing, I just wanted to make clear, this is money that's been sitting in a bucket from your cable bills. Do we know what our balance is in that?
Less and less because everybody's streaming now and doesn't have cable.
It's still sitting there, we hadn't used it for a long time.
It's declined. We have used quite a bit of it, but there's
Recently.
about 200,000.
There's about 200,000 left?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit.
All right, thank you.
But we're still going to have video for meetings and all that. In other words,
Oh, of course.
IPing this doesn't affect
No,
our
this
broadcasting.
is using funding for one-time capital improvements.
All right, thank you. I move the select board recommend indefinite postponement of Article 11 entitled Educational Cable Access and Technology in the March 8th, 2025 Annual Town Meeting warrant as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And then next up would be Article number 12, acceptance of Mass General Law, which is to establish a taxation aid committee.
What?
That's,
This is-
to help taxation committee. There's going to be a fund set up where you can donate a minimum of $1 or more
$1 million if you want.
to help folks in need in the town of Duxbury to help them pay their tax bill.
Yep, Mass General Laws allows the town to authorize, subject to approval of the State Commissioner of Revenue, to design and designate a place on its municipal tax bills
Yep.
or the motor vehicle excise tax, or to mail such tax bills from a separate form whereby taxpayers could voluntarily check off, donate, and pledge an amount of not less than $1 or such other designated amount, which would increase the amount otherwise due, and establish a fund for the purpose of defraying the real estate taxes of elderly and disabled persons of low income.
Yep.
Who doesn't love that, in my humble opinion?
That is.
It is awesome.
Is this a new thing, or is this just new to us?
So
So this has been on
Go
the.
ahead.
Yeah, if I can speak to it for a
Fire
moment.
away.
This has been around for quite some time, well over 20 years. It's been a provision in the law. There are numerous other communities across the Commonwealth who have adopted it and have been using it successfully for decades. It is 100% voluntary, and what it requires by adopting this article is it not only gives us the ability to establish a fund in our accounting records with which to manage these donations, but it will also then require the Select Board to establish a committee. And the committee is required to have the chairman of the Board of Assessors, the treasurer, and 3 members at large to make up a 5-member committee who will draft the framework and regulations for who will be eligible to receive these types of grants that would be applied to their tax bill. So there's several steps, but it is a tool that I had asked Rini to put forward in front of you guys for the town to consider in order to provide some additional potential relief to folks who may be having some difficulties.
Okay.
I think it's great. If everybody donates $5, it'll.
And they can send the donations in anytime. You don't need to wait for your tax bill. One of the things that we'll do, like other communities, is for folks who use our online payment service, you can go right online and make a contribution that way.
Okay.
So
Is there any,
these things will all be forthcoming.
Is there any tax benefit to the donors? Can they write something off?
So that question has been posed. Is it tax deductible? Yeah, and it has been posed. The answer is I'm not your tax preparer, so I cannot respond to that.
Good
However,
answer.
I will tell you that there are other communities who do declare that it is tax deductible with no qualifications, and there are others who refer you to your tax preparer. So
Okay.
I'm not your tax preparer, so I'm not going to make a
So there's
determination.
Opportunity there.
Yes.
Good
With
answer.
with that in mind, I would like to make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Oh, well, I haven't moved it
He
yet.
hasn't moved it yet.
I would like
Good
to,
try,
unless
though.
there's more discussion. I move that the Select Board recommend approval of Article 12, entitled Acceptance of the Provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3D, to establish a taxation aid committee in the March 8th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article, what do you want us to do next?
The next one would be, let's see, hold on. Article 13, part of the HERO Act.
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 provisions here. One is allowing $400 exemption, and the other is, let's see, the exemption increases to $800 and the CPI by 5%. It's all in the explanation.
Do you want me to jump in and give a
Sure, go ahead.
brief?
Yeah.
Okay. So the HERO Act is a recent piece of legislation that was passed, and 2 provisions allow communities to adopt via town meeting vote these chapters that Rainey's talking about, these clauses that Rainey's talking about. 22I would allow us to apply a COLA increase to the annual exemption amount. That COLA does not get set by us. It gets set by the Commissioner of Revenue and is promulgated out to communities. But the statutory exemption amounts of, depending on the different exemptions, it's either $400 or $800 or $1,000. Those statutory amounts have been static for a number of years, and in recognition of increasing costs to a taxpayer, the legislation now allows us to apply a COLA to those statutory amounts. So if it's $400, a 5% COLA would then result in a $420 exemption for somebody who's eligible for that. The second provision, which is the 22J, by adopting that one, what that allows the community to do is to double the amount of the existing exemption. So the $400 exemption that has been $400 for a couple of decades would now become $800. And then that $800 would then be subject to the COLA increase. So there's two prongs that are afforded to a municipality in order to offer exemptions to veterans. These are veterans exemptions only. There will be a cost associated with it, and based on the projection from the assessor's office, the dollar impact, if we adopted both provisions, would be approximately about $80,000. If all eligible veterans in the community applied and were approved for these exemptions, that would be our maximum exposure. That was done based on an analysis from our veterans agent at the time, who identified all folks in town who could potentially be eligible. What I will tell you is the existing veterans exemptions that we do offer, they're statutory exemptions. The state, for some of them, offers reimbursement, so the town provides the exemption, and then we get reimbursed. Adopting these two new clauses, there is no state reimbursement.
I note that a number of our veterans in town are also seniors. Happy to make a motion.
Yeah, just before that, there was some talk, you went to that MMA thing about unfunded mandates.
Yep.
This is a great mandate.
This is a local option, so the state would never call it a mandate.
Right.
So why do they refund the other one?
I'm sorry?
Why do they refund the other one?
The other ones. So this is basically an add-on to the existing statutory exemptions. So we're required to provide the statutory exemptions because they're in Mass General Law. This is an add-on or an enhancement that a community can choose or to pursue or not pursue, and therefore there's no additional funding.
Answered all my questions in your speech, so I have no questions. Does anybody have any questions?
I move the Select Board recommend approval of Article 13, entitled Acceptance of the Provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, and Clause 22I and 22J, to authorize an annual increase in the amount of the exemption granted under the Massachusetts general laws for veterans under the, quote, HERO Act, unquote, in the March 8th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any more you want us to do tonight? It's getting kind of late.
Oh, we have to keep on
The
going.
CPC articles.
Oh,
Do we?
CPC
We're going to
articles.
close it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
No, thank you.
You guys good?
Thanks, Mary.
These were all approved by the Finance Committee as well. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to attend the meetings or see them online.
So we're not going to get a presentation on these?
No, because they were done, we were running out of time. And I figured you guys either, did you go to these meetings? I thought you did. Did you attend the CPC meetings?
No.
No.
I think we attended the Tuesday.
We're doing the Thursday
Monday
meetings.
and Thursday meetings.
Okay, I didn't know if they had gone to one of them. I can bring them in if you'd like.
I think it would be nice. I mean, you've heard from residents that they're concerned about the surcharge.
Yeah.
And I think it would be an opportunity for CPC to explain the noble projects that they're putting forth with with this money.
And that is a brilliant segue. Do you want an article to reduce the CPC from 3% to 1%? The warrant's open. I can put one in.
In
if
my
you want.
opinion, the CPC, first of all, there's an opt-out. So if you're you're having some type of a financial issue, you can opt out of it. This is the only tax money, the only revenue that we get matching funds from the state. And this goes towards so many things that town meeting obviously votes, the town wants. So to reduce down a policy, a project, something that we voted in and we've embraced that matches the funds. It's the only matching funds that we get. I think that would be a very, very unwise decision, and I would not support that.
Although the matching is not dollar for dollar, unfortunately.
No, but no, but sometimes, it was at one point.
It was, at the beginning.
At the beginning, and,
Beginning,
you know, who
yeah.
knows where it's going, but it's still some matching funds.
Can I offer thought on that? I wouldn't personally be in favor of lowering the CPC, but a number of people have brought it up.
Yep.
And it's ultimately a lot on the plate of town meeting to consider extensive dollar signs. It's going to make a terrible quote in the Clipper, but I think town meeting should have the opportunity to express its opinion as to whether we should make that change. I would personally not recommend, so if we put forth an article, I would vote no. However, it has been brought up, and unfortunately Mr. Sullivan is not here, but he's just the most recent person who's articulated that concern. So as a representative of the town, overall, I think it's important to hear, or to give town meeting the opportunity, since a number of people have expressed it. But I don't think it's a good idea personally.
I'm going to push back a little bit, Brian. First of all, a number of people, there's a process for doing this. There has been no citizen petition put forth. We have a CPC. They have not come forward. I think there's a process for doing this.
There is, but I will say you don't have to have a citizen's petition. That's why I'm asking you now, because this is the last item. If you wanted it, you could do it as the board. But I'm not for or against it, but because I'm about process, I'm simply suggesting it because Mr. Sullivan had mentioned it twice. My fear would be not involving the Community Preservation Committee.
Yeah.
And doing it all of a sudden. Hi, surprise, we've got an article for you to think about.
I would think
And I think
there
you would
should be,
agree with that.
there should have been some, if we were contemplating this, there should have been, it should have been on an agenda as an item so that people could come out and say, you know, please don't open this up again.
Yep.
And that
Totally agree.
process has not happened.
But because it happened more organically and he brought it up, here we are.
Yeah.
Just
and
wanted to float it by you, that's all.
The other,
There is an opportunity, right? There's going to be, before June, right? There's going to be a special town meeting, yeah?
Yeah, at least in June, yeah.
so, from a historical perspective, how did we end up at the vote for bringing it down to 1%?
Citizens petition.
It wasn't just an
Citizen
oral vote
petition.
from the floor?
No,
It was in the warrant last time.
yeah.
Yeah, it was in the warrant.
I know it was in the warrant to go up to 3.
And it was in, yeah, citizen
Prior to
it
that,
petition
down.
it was
to
a
go
citizens
down.
petition to bring it down.
Again, think of the projects that, you know.
We're not-
I know, I agree.
Totally agree with you. It just basically, we're just talking about, Amy, we've all heard from residents, right? And we heard residents concerned about PFAS, we've heard residents
Yep.
concerned about the override and the impact of the tax bill, and there's been residents say, for heaven's sakes, please, at least take something off the plate, you're killing us.
And again, if the residents had filed something
Yeah.
and asked for this to be before town meeting, it would be before town meeting, but
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
that
fair
is
enough.
a good point. If it's been an article in the past presented by a resident, there was a process to do that. And what I'm hearing from the board is that if we were to put in something, we wouldn't recommend it. So it would be proponents of an article, none of us would be recommended.
Correct.
And that was the question that he had asked previously.
Yeah.
Was anybody from the town, as opposed to a citizens petition, going to move forward with the idea of such an article? And I said, I'm not aware of it. Because he was wondering if the finance committee would sponsor an article, the board, anybody. Because he said he was the one, I think he was the one that did the citizens petition last time. I
Yes,
could be
he was.
mistaken.
Yes.
Because he said, he just wanted to know if somebody was going to move forward with it.
And I haven't, to Amy's point, or it hasn't been noticed, and CPC hasn't made that recommendation that they're flush and they don't need the money anymore, or that, or something like that.
Sure.
There's been no recommendation to drop to 2 or 1.5 or 1.
Yep.
They say they need 3. So, as far as not yet, but the, So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was interrupted by a Zoom. If,
The CPC,
are there any other
had-
questions?
the Community Preservation Committee hadn't been asked. That was what you were saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mr. Sullivan hasn't gone to the CPC and asked them to rethink it?
To lower their number that
lower
they
their
sponsored
number.
2
Well, yeah, I
years ago
don't-
to increase?
Yeah,
I don't know what their
No, I
long,
don't think he's asked them that, Fernando.
you know, I don't know what their
Creative, though.
long-term projections are. I don't know what they're
Yeah,
seeking to purchase or anything like that. It would,
fair enough.
If I can just offer one observation. The last time we talked about changing CPA one way or the other, we didn't have a fairly sizable override request on the same warrant. So again, I wouldn't advocate for any change in CPC. I think it's money well spent. But I'm also sensitive to the fact that we're asking quite a lot of the residents, and I'm much more interested in seeing the override pass. And if helping out a little bit with adjusting the CPA would make a difference, I'd be open to that. Because again, we none of this is going to be perfect to everyone. We need to compromise. And we need to do what we can in the best interest of the town overall. And I'd fund everything 110% if I could, including CPA. But, you know, something's got to give.
Okay, I just wanted to deal with that, and there it is. Thank you. The last thing I'll ask you, do you want
Yeah.
to
Get something on.
Oh, sorry.
Let's Bree here.
Forgive me.
go ahead, Bree. Go ahead.
Hi, so I sit on the CPC, I'm the commissioner on the CPC. And I just wanted to strongly urge you that not put that forward. We do need the funds. We are moving forward on a couple of different projects, and we're also helping the community. We're making the harbor walk. We're helping with the playground, doing the big whole tennis court project down on Wadsworth, so that when Laney's playground is built, we don't have caution tape around our tennis courts. You know, we do a lot. We need a lot, and it feels like we just got our 3% increase. I'm just begging you not to put it on there. We do need it. If you want to hear from the CPC, I have voting power and a commission seat, and I am urging you from the CPC's perspective, we need that 3%. Thank you.
And I think you're going to hear that we want to get CPC in here to talk about their projects, and I think it'll be a good opportunity to
Yeah.
kind of quell some of the concerns about that
Yeah.
surcharge.
I think that'd be good. I think that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, go
We
ahead.
have a
Nan-
meeting coming up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bree. We have our Conservation Director, Nancy Rufo.
Hi, Nancy Rufo, Conservation Administrator. I am the staff contact that I support the CPC. I agree with Bree 100%. I strongly object to suggesting that this be added to the warrant with no notice to the committee. And as Bree said, we have so many projects that do such good for the town that we'll be happy to come in to present what the articles are for this town meeting March 8th. But I strongly object to this being added to the warrant.
Thank you.
There were 2 articles. One last one. Article 15, which is, you had heard at the meeting, the proposed new town hall local historic district.
Yes?
That's one. And the other would be a resolution to declare a climate emergency. Do you guys want to vote positions on either one of those?
So the local historic district there was quite a bit of conversation at the finance committee
Yeah.
meeting. That again wasn't embraced by them.
No.
Do we understand what that's about?
No, I need to add it to my plate, well, there's stuff I need to do, but I thought we had a conversation, clarity between the local historic district commission and our previous facilities director, that by designating the town hall, there would not be any cost, there would not be any added bureaucracy, there would be not another process for the town, for the facilities director to go through. And I thought that had been cleared up. But
I
by the
did
sounds
too.
of it, when it was talked about at the finance committee, the same comments came up. Well, it'll create additional cost, additional bureaucracy, all that stuff. And so I said, okay, let me take it offline and let me get the two parties together and
She
have
needs
another
more time.
another conversation about this. Again, I thought we had it cleared a
Yeah, because I
year ago.
had drafted language last
Yeah,
year for it to
well,
kind
exactly,
of.
which basically is no bureaucracy. It's
Right.
just basically a sign which says, this is a historic building. And then you can use whatever products you want to do, as long as it looks the same from the outside.
Yeah.
You can renovate inside, you can do what the hell you want
Photograph
inside.
it and let them know.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
There
all.
was a process
Yeah,
involved.
that's right, we wrote it,
Yes,
and then all of a
yes.
sudden,
Yeah,
the same stuff comes up
as-
again.
So,
Anyway,
so we
disappointing.
can vote it.
Yeah,
We can vote
I
it.
would support this.
I support it.
Okay, based on this document that
Oh, no, that was last year.
was last year.
This supplants that.
Well, I know, but I
This
mean,
lands it right in the district.
Are you
Yeah,
okay
but-
with that?
I thought you didn't want it in the
I
district.
didn't,
Okay.
but not
Well,
my
you didn't have
decision.
Well,
What? What? You're hearing something different, right?
I did.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
we'd agreed that.
Last year we did, and we voted that. The voters at town meeting voted that. It was, because no property in town goes
Yeah.
through more scrutiny
Yeah.
to get anything done than a
Correct.
town-owned property.
That's right. And then we just sent a
It's got to go
photograph to
through
the.
like 9 different levels
Yeah,
of
yeah, I know.
bureaucracy, as you say.
Well, exactly. That.
but
so,
we added the Alden district last year.
Yeah, but this was different because.
Why is it local town? Why
Well,
is
be-
town different? Than,
Because it's got to go through, to get, imagine we wanted to renovate the outside of this building.
yeah.
It's got to go through fiscal advisory, the finance committee, this board, me, the building inspector.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, town meeting.
Yeah.
To do anything. That's 6 levels.
Right.
And
This adds a 7th.
Yeah,
Oh, but the seventh is it's like we said it's a photograph.
it's a local historic
No,
district.
the way we wrote it last year it is. It's
Yeah.
that, but there were, I did not bring any of my information on that.
Did they change it,
Tonight.
the local historic district?
What they want to do is put it in the district itself and have all the regulations that go with it.
Oh, that's crazy.
And that involves the demo delay and all
Okay,
that
let's
stuff.
not vote on
That
that.
was not the agreement. That
No,
the local-
what you wanted to do, that you're
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
you did it last year.
For Alden.
No, for
All of them?
all town buildings.
I'm really.
I have to look at it.
All right, let's
Let's
take.
look at it.
You know what,
let's
we're
go
not
back.
doing this one.
Yeah, let's not do it.
Put this one off.
It is getting late. It's 9:15. Do you want to call
I'm
it?
starving.
One last thing. Oh, sorry, and then we'll get you out of here, Amy, because I know I'm hungry too. Do you want to declare a climate emergency or no?
I think we could put that off for another.
Okay, that's all I needed from you. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, how did the finance committee vote on the declare a climate emergency?
They didn't yet.
They didn't yet. Okay.
So are we closing the warrant?
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes, ma'am.
the Article 27, the citizen to accept Checkerberry Hill, that's very important that we find out, that was a comprehensive permit, better known as a 40B.
Yeah.
I am pretty sure that there were waivers
I am too. I talked to
granted.
Amy
So
Questle.
could we please get confirmation of that? Because then we don't lay it out and that will become a non-issue.
Yes, sorry, we're here. I had a conversation with Rebecca about that and Emily today and Amy Questle, so that's coming to you. They've done their thing. The planning board has done their thing, and I think they've said no.
So, well,
Okay,
yeah,
because
they-
it's the zoning board that actually granted the comprehensive permit for that
The ZBA is a
40B.
40B.
The ZBA, right.
Yeah, but I think the recommendation for the road acceptance comes from the planning board, not the ZBA.
Well, but the waivers are great. Okay, we'll just find it. We gotta just,
It's coming, don't worry. Yes, I thought of you today, and that's coming to you, because I followed up on it.
you always think of me when you see roadways, huh?
Exactly, roadways, dirt, all the good stuff.
All right.
Thank you, that was all I needed. Now you can do your last one if you don't mind, which is closing it.
Oh,
I move that the Select Board close the March 8th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Where the heck are we here? Let's see.
So
and then
I
this-
should probably be moving us along here.
Something on special town meeting?
Yep, please, if you could do the same.
Yep. Do you need to add an article here? in special town meeting?
No, because it's part of the supplement, what we're talking about is, it'll be in the motion. We have a supplemental appropriation article already.
Okay.
It's there.
All right, so you don't need us to have
I
it?
do not, but thank you for asking,
Great.
it was good of you to check.
So if we close it, you're okay?
I am, yes, thank you.
All right.
In that case, I will move that the Select Board close the March 8th, 2025 special town meeting warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, final one.
Let's see. I move the Select Board sign the March 8th, 2025 annual and special town meeting warrants.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we have a town manager's report.
It's very lengthy, I'm just kidding. Boy, did your head snap. No, it's just a copy of, and thank you, Nancy, for doing this, the timeline leading up to what would be the June 16th special town meeting, at which time we would be contemplating the MBTA zoning. This evening, Rebecca was meeting with those folks to get them squared away on this, so they're aware as well.
Those folks.
Sorry,
Those folks.
Meeting with Planning Board.
Planning Board. Yeah, sorry, those folks.
Not the,
Not the MBTA working group.
Rebecca was meeting with those folks. I was completely lost for a
Sorry.
minute, so thank you.
You know where we are. Yeah, there we are. So that's that.
June 16th.
Yeah.
Kind of up here.
That's my report. It's all been work on the warrant this week.
Yep.
ready for some announcements?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was looking at another letter
I
I'm
have
signing.
3 announcements. Number 1, President's Day Town Hall closure. Town Hall will be closed on Monday, February 17th, 2025, in observance of President's Day. There will be no Select Board meeting that evening. Number 2, override public forums. The town of Duxbury is holding 2 public information sessions to discuss the fiscal year 2026 proposed operating budget override at the following location, dates, and times. At the Duxbury High School/Middle School Presentation Hall. The first date is Wednesday, February 12th at 6:30 p.m. That's this Wednesday. The second is on Wednesday, February 26th at 6:30 p.m. These are live, in-person sessions, meaning no remote participation, but they will be recorded and made available for later viewing. Number 3, the next scheduled Select Board meeting will be on Monday, February 24th, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. in the Muir Room, Town Hall.
Thank you. I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.